What's going on, guys? It's Justin with the XFL Extra Point. Before we get into our recap of Week 4 in the XFL, I just want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, Podcorn. Podcorn's a website that finally made doing what we do feasible. And they can do the same for you. Do you have a podcast, a show of any size, and you want to start making it self-sustainable? Well, Podcorn's here to help you secure your first ad campaign and plenty more for years to come. When we first signed up, we were a small podcast, and we still are. We have a passionate and engaged community, and with that, we were able to use Podcorn to attract brands to our show. Super easy to sign up, doesn't cost you a dime. You can immediately start reaching out to brands that are looking to sponsor podcasts like yours. All the while, Podcorn's there to make sure every deal you make is legit, and you'll get your money fast and on time. So go, sign up, there's no reason not to. 5 minutes at most, it's worth the benefits your show will get from using Podcorn services. So if you want to check it out, click the link in our show notes, or just head over to podcorn.com. Thanks again to Podcorn for sponsoring today's episode. Now, let's talk some football.
Hey, this is Oliver Luck, and you're listening to the XFL Extra Point Podcast.
Since the day you saved my soul, you've been proving
This is yes!
What's going on, guys? XFL Extra Point number 21? I couldn't remember what episode we were on. I'm Justin. I'm here with Thomas. Thomas, say something so people know you exist.
Shout out my boy Tyler. Hope the syphilis clears up soon.
You have a friend named Tyler who has syphilis?
Yes, it's stage 4 syphilis. It's really unfortunate.
Geez. That is pretty unfortunate.
Yep.
Huh. All right, well, despite that, on that sad note, we're going to do our show as usual. It's going to be listener questions, as always.
As always.
Power rankings. And this week is our Week 4 recap.
All right.
That's our Monday shows, our recaps. If you guys like what we do, if you guys want to support the show, if you guys want us to keep making shows for years to come, then head over to our Twitter and give us a follow.
Do it.
You know what you can also do with our Twitter? You can also send us listener questions, the ones we're about to address just in a second. You can send us them there, and we will see them, and we will answer them. So how about that?
Answer the shit out those bitches. Haha.
We also post all our podcasts on YouTube. You can listen to them there. You can listen to them anywhere you get podcasts. But if you're listening to the show right now, you probably already know where to find our podcast.
But if you do listen on YouTube, go ahead and do me a favor and smash that fucking like button. Thanks.
Smash that like button.
Like, comment, subscribe.
If you like the video right now, I don't know. You know how people do that thing on those videos?
If we get to 10K likes.
Or they'll be like, the thing will be called like turning on my lights and be like, if the light turns on, bro, like the video, bro.
Like the video, and then leave a comment saying you like the video, and then I'll pick a random commenter to win a $20 Amazon gift card. No, we're not doing that shit.
No, we're not. Also, because we don't have money to get
That is
$20
correct.
Amazon gift cards.
That is 100%
But anyway,
correct.
all right, let's get into our show. Per usual, we started with our listener questions. We actually have another one that I didn't write down here, so after we get through these two,
Surprise.
go back on Twitter and I'm going to look what it was.
It's a sneaky question.
Okay? So the first one is from Fat Bobby K.
Fat Bobby K.
Fat Bobby K on Twitter. He asks questions all the time. We appreciate it. He says, at XFL Extra Point, why are all the losing teams so reluctant to switch quarterbacks? So far, the teams are coming to life after a change. And then he adds his own little, what do you call that? What do you
Flare.
call that little thing at the end?
Little flare.
Yeah. He says, Vipers fans deserve their coach and quarterback. Go Battlehawks.
Caw!
Caw.
I definitely blew that shit out, so you
let's
might have
answer
to.
the question: why are losing teams so reluctant to switch quarterbacks? I don't know. You tell me, Thomas, because I seem to be the one who always wants quarterback
All right.
switches. And then they happen, and then it works.
All right.
Tell me why they're
so I will tell you why, because that's how it works. You don't just uproot everything if it looks bad. Now, if somebody gets hurt or if somebody's just like, yo, fuck this shit, then yeah, you do. But for most professional teams, really most teams at any level, you don't just switch like that. Now, has it worked out? Yeah, sure. Does that mean that's going to still kind of be the same thing even going into next year? No. It's going to stay the same. It will always be the same. That's just how it works.
Here's my counter argument to that. Right?
Okay.
That makes sense at a level in college, at a level in the NFL, where you know who your best guy is for the most part. But at this level, I think these players are pretty comparable from backup to starter in most cases. Now, there's exceptions, right?
Yeah.
Josh Johnson is clearly not in threat of being replaced. So if anyone was asking for him to replace that for a bad game, that'd be stupid.
Yes.
But you look at a guy like Brandon Silvers, who we had at the bottom of our rankings anyway, and we were like, how much better is he than B.J. Daniels? it's situations like that where it's not a clear discrepancy that I think you could end up making a switch earlier. Because I don't know if you were 100% about that quarterback in the first place.
Mm-hmm. You also have to take into account, though, like we kind of mentioned, I don't remember how far back this was, but the coaches didn't necessarily pick what quarterback they got. So they might be going more off of skill sets than or at least this guy is like a 6 out of 10 with this skill set rather than this guy who's like a 7.5, but he runs a completely different thing that I'm not familiar with or that I don't want to do, something like that. So I think that's more evident in the case of Brandon Silvers and BJ Daniels / Aaron Murray, Cornman, and Quentin Flowers than anything. So just stuff like that. Just more things to consider than who is actually better, which I acknowledge is stupid, but that's how it works. So.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. So that's the answer to that question. Move on to our second question from. Let's see if I can say this. I think I know how to say this.
Oh, you got
Nate
this.
Hinsman?
Yes.
Hinsman? It's Hinsman. Nate Hinsman at Nate H2 the Izzo.
H2 the Izzo.
On Twitter. He says, is it safe to assume that barring injury, we've seen the last of Matt McGloin under center for the XFL Guardians this season?
Yes.
Yes. Well, okay. Well, is it safe to assume? It's never safe to assume.
It's always safe to assume.
Because the next game, Luis Perez comes out and shits the bed, and then we're like, put Matt McGloin back in, you know?
Well, so, then that'd be really stupid of them to do.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's safe to assume that we've seen the last of him, because
I think
knows?
we have. I think we have.
If he comes back and for whatever reason they're like, we need to start this guy, he played in the NFL, well, that.
I think if Luis looks bad, they'll put in Marquise Williams. Is that his name?
Yep.
I apologize for forgetting his name. I'm actually a fan of his. But I think we see more Marquise Williams. I think Matt McGloin is finito with not only the Guardians, but probably the XFL, and most likely professional football.
Thinking.
Not necessarily because he's terrible. I just don't see it working out for him. Unless he gets moved to another team and plays okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, the question from Twitter, this one's from Joe Geiger Jr. Friend of the
Joe
show.
Geiger Jr.
At
friend
Joe
of the show.
Geiger Jr. on Twitter. He says, do you see the XFL Battlehawks losing at home this season?
Well.
And let me answer this, because I have a kind of sort of answering his question, but it's like more of a different point. So we're going to do our power rankings in a second. And if I could do this in my power rankings, you know who'd be number one in my power rankings?
Who?
Home field advantage.
Yes.
Because
You're not
this has been a
kidding.
trend. Literally for 4 weeks, the home team always wins, no matter where we think they are and how good they think they are. They always win. So if you're betting, always bet on the home team. So do I think the Battlehawks, who are also just a good team in general, do I think the Battlehawks will lose at home? No, because no one loses at home. I think it may have happened once so far in all the games we've seen. Home teams have just literally won every game. And when we see the Defenders, who we thought were number one, they got to play at home 2 weeks in a row, and so we thought they were amazing. And then they play 2 road games, and they get blown out in both of them. You know, home teams are just so clearly the best at this point.
Yep.
All right. Anything you want to say on that?
No, I completely agree with everything you said.
Yeah. There was some other listener questions. Let me see if I can find them. Nate Hinsman threw in 2 more. One of them is going to be hard for us to talk about because it says, is there any news about when Antonio Callaway will be back on the field? And I don't think any news has come out about that.
Well, no, there is not any news. So question answered.
So we can't really talk in length about that one.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, has there been any talk of possible expansion? If so, what city should be on the short list for an XFL franchise? I don't think there's been any talk at this point. I know a lot of people have speculated on whether they will or whether they won't and where they possibly could be.
Mm-hmm.
But for the sake of the question,
I have an idea.
Give me like 3.
I have an idea.
Go,
I was going to say.
okay.
So we're not doing a clownery power ranking this episode.
Uh-huh.
So
Yes,
in lieu of that, we were kind of doing the same thing anyway, but let's name 3 and then kind of number them off.
3 cities.
So what do you want to
do
start?
like a draft?
Well, nah, let's not do that. Let's just, because we might come to a consensus.
So I'm saying you can't say the same city.
That's what I mean. As long as I get to go first.
Okay, you can go first.
All
Where's
right,
your city?
Cleveland, Ohio, baby.
Say it again. I didn't hear.
Cleveland, Ohio, baby.
Yeah, that would have been my first pick too.
Or at least somewhere in Ohio. Maybe not Cleveland, but that'd probably be the best. If they make it in Cincinnati, I'd puke because that'd be terrible. But Cleveland,
right.
Ohio for sure.
Here's my pick: Oakland.
Oakland, oof, rough. If they have to
Now, here's the reason I picked that. They lose they lost their football team, and we've seen how that's worked out for St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's my pick.
All right.
What's your second pick?
It's kind of rough that we picked 3 because I'm struggling to think of another one. Give me one.
I have another
moment.
2 that are great.
Somewhere in Pennsylvania would be good. More in the northeastern seaboard because that's also kind of more of a blue-collar football town. So,
I'm so glad you didn't have time to prepare for this because my answer is like the third most obvious one.
go for it.
And that's San Diego,
That is a fantastic one. Good for
who
you.
also lost their football team.
Yeah, that is definitely
and has a
for
stadium there to play in at Qualcomm that would be perfect for this size crowd.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Got one more.
My number 3 is Las Vegas, Nevada.
That's a good one.
Fuck
That is
it.
a good one.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you could, problem is I don't know if they have a good stadium that size that they could use.
Well,
but,
I assume the Raiders. I assume the Raiders.
no,
would be
you
nice.
don't want to go. You don't want to go in the Raiders stadium. You've already heard that they're downsizing. The talk is that they're downsizing like all the stadiums next year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're
Not
right.
all of them,
Well,
but most of them. Like the ones
they
like
can play it
MetLife,
like
NFL.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't know you were done.
No, that's pretty much I was just saying what I
Okay.
was already saying twice.
They can play it like UNLV, something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, my last one. Man, I had it now. I'm forgetting it.
Oh God.
Let's give me a team in Alabama somewhere.
That'd be nice. Just somewhere in the South. That's not Florida or
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah, give me like Alabama. So that would be cool.
I don't know if.
That'd be-
The only problem with that, I don't know if they would like. If they would.
Well, here's my thought. Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of Alabama guys in the XFL
Fair.
because lots of the guys at Alabama are great athletes, but they aren't quite good enough to be in the NFL.
Yep.
Even though they're great athletes, so they go to the XFL. There's actually a lot of SEC guys in the XFL.
Yeah.
And that city loves football. They don't have professional football. I'd say just do it.
All right. So now, what was your number 1?
My number 1 was Oakland.
Oakland. All right. Give me a team name.
Oh, God. The Oakland...
Make it alliterative if you can, I guess.
Oakland Octopuses. No. The
Octopi.
Oakland... The Oakland...
Or it doesn't have to be alliterative, I guess. Just something representative.
Yeah, that one's hard.
Yeah.
It's like, I lived in Oakland, and it's like, what is Oakland?
No, what is Oakland?
Because the Raiders is pretty good.
Yeah.
But the Oakland...
I should be using this time to think of one for Cleveland, but I'm not. Because now I'm just thinking of one for
Oakland Devils.
Devils. Wow. Now you see you have a high opinion.
It's kind of like Raiders.
All right, now give me team colors.
Red and
Red's kind of a given.
black.
Red and black.
Yeah, red and black.
Okay, you kind of lucked out on the color scheme there.
what's your one?
For Cleveland, the name that I can't get out of my head, which I'm not using, is the name of our like indoor soccer team from the '90s, which is the Cleveland Crunch, which
Okay.
that's literally all I'm thinking about. But give me a second while I think of something else. But Cleveland Crunch is a solid name. Cleveland. Cleveland Kaboom. This is hard. So something non-alliterative that's representative.
Cleveland Kaboom.
No, I mean, that's terrible. Cleveland. Trying to think of what's representative of the city of Cleveland.
It'd have to be like the Cleveland. Well, that'd be if it was like Canton, Ohio.
So
say the Cleveland Legends.
Cleveland Legends. I could do that because they would definitely play off that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, doesn't Canton have a fucking? Isn't that where they have the Hall of Fame game? In Canton?
Yeah,
because then they
don't have a team.
Well, they would just go to Canton then, I guess, instead of Cleveland. Although Cleveland is a
Yeah,
much
that would
bigger
make more
city.
sense.
I don't know.
I think you'd do Canton. Canton Legends.
Canton Legends.
Better.
Team colors: gold and
Silver.
silver. Gold and silver. That's a weird combo. I don't like that. Gold, probably gold and black, honestly. But more on the gold side though, because it's the Legends, and they would also probably be the most easily hateable team in the league because they're fucking gold.
All right, we don't have to go through the other ones.
Yes, that's fine. That was just that was hard enough. We'll just move past that. That was a good question.
Yeah. Thank you, Nate Hinsman.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to our power rankings. Let's
do
talk
it.
about this. I actually haven't looked at yours. I wonder how different ours are.
They're a little bit different. More different than usual.
I see you 180'd on me from what you said in the.
Yes, I thought I gave it some thought, and it's not quite a 180. I just didn't. I gave it a little more thought, and I decided that yes.
Okay, let's talk about it. I'll go through mine, you go through yours.
Okay.
All right, number 1 for me, the Roughnecks. Number 2, the Battlehawks. Those are the easiest one. Can I preface this with saying this is super hard to do?
Yes.
Because, like, after 1 and 2, it gets super muddled.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 3 for me, the Wildcats. Number 4, the Renegades. Number 5, the Dragons. Number 6, the Vipers. And number 7, the Guardians. Number 8, the Defenders.
All right. Number 1, the Roughnecks. Number 2, the Battlehawks. Number 3, the Wildcats. Number 4, the Renegades. Number 5, the Vipers. Number 6, the Dragons. Number 7, the Defenders. And number 8, the Guardians.
Okay, so I think that we don't really need to talk about 1 and 2,
Yes.
right? Because they've been 1 and 2 for a while
Yes.
now. Okay, let's talk about the Wildcats and the Renegades. I know we agree here, but I know you had some reservations. I had reservations too. What makes you put the Renegades below the Wildcats?
Just overall, their offensive execution in general, and like we kind of discussed, I don't know how much that's going to get better with Philip Nelson. So looking forward, I mean, looking in the present, even if Landry Jones was healthy, they're just kind of a team. They're not flashy. They're not exciting. They have like a few plays here and there from Parham and Cameron Artis-Payne, but when they were on offense, you're kind of waiting for something bad to happen. Their defense is good. Their defense is very, very good, which is
very good.
Initially why I was like, yeah, fuck it, they're ahead of the Wildcats when we discussed it earlier.
Same.
But thinking about it more, I decided that the Wildcats, when they're healthy and they don't seem to have any super long-term injuries, win out over the Renegades.
Yeah, that was my exact same logic. The thing with the Renegades is like they're much more one-sided than the Wildcats. The Wildcats are super balanced in that their offense, when healthy, when guys that aren't going to, when Nelson Spruce is back, when Martez Carter's back, when everyone's 100%, that offense is really good.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best in the league. And then their defense is also, one of the best in the league. Whereas the Renegades, their offense is great and is one of the best in the league. But not their offense. Their defense is great and one of the best in the league. But their offense is so inconsistent that it makes me scratch my head most of the time. Especially when you have 2 running backs who are looking like some of the best running backs in the league, and you still don't want to lean on them 100%. Now, they used them a lot more in this game, but going forward, that's the only way they can keep this position at 4 is if they lean on their running back, because I don't have full faith in Philip Nelson and his ability to stretch the field.
Yes.
So.
Week 1 when he played, they seemed like they were just kind of like, fuck it, we'll just get through this game the best we can with Philip Nelson, and then Landry Jones will be back and everything will be groovy. So hopefully they kind of let him, because I mean when he did throw it deep like for 3 times, it looked to be catchable balls. So maybe they give him the reins a little more, or maybe we see Eric Dungey start to work himself into the fold. So
yeah, we'll have to see. I need to compare Eric Dungey and Philip Nelson's skill set more. But I do, from what I remember seeing in preseason of Dungey, I did like him. But if Landry Jones is out, I think that's bad. And even though Landry Jones was inconsistent, I just think he has more, he can let you do more with your team. I think even if Landry Jones was there, this team should be a run-dominant team. And for some reason, they're like, never mind, let's just take shots. Let's take shots downfield. And then interceptions come, and that's how you throw 3 interceptions in the first.
I think...
But their defense still fantastic.
Yes. I think what's going to hurt in Landry Jones' absence the most is not necessarily in-game, but probably at practice, because I bet he was pretty reliable at practice. He does all the little things correct, I'm assuming, just like mechanic stuff and all that jazz and all that stuff. So that's going to hurt a little bit more than I think people realize. But past that, we'll see. They kind of got a problem now. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, let's talk about 5 and 6 where we have this swap.
Alrighty.
Dragons and Vipers. You have Vipers first, Dragons second. So you have Vipers at 5, Dragons at 6. I have Dragons at 5, Vipers at 6.
Yes.
I'll explain my reasoning since I let you do your reasoning first.
Oh, okay.
The Dragons defense and the Vipers defense are both fantastic. I know I've been all over the Vipers, and I can't wait to hear. I'm not going to make you do it now. We'll do it when we get to the actual preview. I want to hear what your opinion on the Vipers D is now at this point.
Okay.
But it must have improved that you have them at 5.
That's positive.
But I'll put the Dragons there because I like their playmakers on defense more. I think they're more likely to cause turnovers than the Vipers are, and we've seen this through a couple games. The Vipers aren't a turnover-heavy team. They had a good week this week, but I'm still questioning it. I also want to see. I'm not ready to put the Vipers up so high because this is like one good week for the offense. I need to wait and see what. And I'm still scared that they're going to put Aaron Murray back in at some point. But for the Dragons offense, they've now made the switch to B.J. Daniels, and I'd assume that's for the foreseeable future.
Yes.
I don't know if I 100% agree with it, but what it does let you do is change how your offense works. And I think if they decide to be a completely run-dominant team with a great defense, that can win you games. The Vipers are doing the same. They're pretty neck and neck here, pretty interchangeable. But I'm going to go ahead and put the Dragons up first because I like their playmakers more. Jeremy Clark. There's two linebackers that are just escaping my mind right now. There's two linebackers on the Dragons I like a lot too. So
all right,
that's why I have them higher.
So for me, it's really a matter of kind of offense that I like more. The Vipers, even though they are limited in some aspects, look a little more dynamic and have a few more options. Their run game, while both teams' run game are absurd, I really do like the Vipers' rushing attack. That's Jackus Patrick and Devontae Smith. Devion Smith, yeah, fucked up his name. Devion Smith. Just seeing them push the piles and seeing them kind of never or very rarely go down to the first man hit is awesome. Dragons also have guys that do that too, so that's great. Taylor Cornelius has looked more comfortable since his disastrous game. I believe it was week 2. So he actually looks serviceable at points. He's definitely looking more comfortable. He's definitely looking more in control. I understand that the DC Defenders defense might be a little exposed now, but I think he looked fine today, and I think he looked good. Their offense is going to their defense is going to live and die by how much pressure they're going to get. So if that continues and they just continue to rush 6 and get it, then they got it, and that'll work. I think that'll kind of give them trouble against mobile quarterbacks or quarterbacks that can escape. But for now, I think the Vipers are in a more comfortable situation as long as they keep this momentum up and just keep doing what they're doing and don't try to outthink themselves.
Okay. Let's talk about the last 2, 7 and 8, which we have flopped.
Yes.
I had a hard time. So I put Guardians at 7, Defenders at 8, whereas you put Defenders at 7, Guardians at 8. Mm-hmm. Okay. I had a hard time here because it didn't feel right to put the Defenders at 8, but it's hard to be like, well, they lost to this team. I'm not going to put them. It's like, can I put them ahead of the Vipers? No, I can't. And do I think the Vipers are better than the Guardians? Only slightly.
Yeah.
So then it's like, well, okay. So then who? They have to go to 8 for me. That was really the logic behind it. It's like, I know that they have weapons. They have 2 of the best receivers in the league still. I think the running back situation is pretty questionable at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a problem. And their defense is just not trying anymore. I don't know how much of it to chalk up to they were like, well, we lost last week, and then they were just down in the dumps, and then their confidence has been shot, and they could perhaps regain it. But they're not playing with any aggressiveness. They're not going after. They're not playing to the whistle. It used to be that guys were swarming on the ball, and that doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
Yeah, their front 7 was getting beat up all game, basically, which hats off to the Vipers. We've kind of talked trash about their O-line this whole season. They played really, really well today. Really, they could get pressure here and there, but what mainly stuck out to me was just they got blown off the ball, especially when it was a kind of a short yardage situation where the Vipers needed a yard. They got the yard and more. They had problems tackling today, which we'll talk about later. The DC Defenders defense, I think, is just not very good. They were kind of hyped up after week 2 because they had played 2 teams that were kind of still figuring it out. But now, once they play, which is hilarious because the Vipers are a team that are very much still figuring it out. But everything was going their way and nothing was going the Defenders' way, so they just look really bad. This is 2 weeks in a row that Cardale has had what I would say bad games. He's been inaccurate. A lot of balls in the dirt, a lot of balls just not catchable. little jumpy on his throw still, which he still has the fucking cannon. So, I mean, if he can just calm down a little bit, I think he'll be a little better. There are, obviously, which we'll talk about later, some route running issues, which we'll get into later. But stuff like that, it just kind of doesn't give you the confidence that Cardale can really be the guy to kind of lead your team. So 2 weeks in a row that they're not doing so well. Vipers, I think, are definitely trending up because they're getting a little more comfortable and kind of leaning on the rushing attack more with a solid defense. Defenders, I think, are just trending down with a inaccurate and skittish Cardale and a defense that seems to have been overrated at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to look at something. Okay. So the Defenders are going to be at home next week. That's helpful. Mm-hmm. But here's the problem: they're playing the Battlehawks.
Yes.
And the Battlehawks are going to be a miserable matchup for them.
Yes. Because
now what's clear is that their run D is probably one of the worst in the league. Mm-hmm. Just after 2 weeks now, we have to assume that because Martez Carter had a big game on them, and then these Vipers running backs had a big game on them. And they also seem to have problems with mobile quarterbacks.
Yes.
So that's going to be a problem this game. They're going to get a mobile quarterback and a team with a good why am I missing the word? They can run the ball well.
Yes. Now, what I will say about the Defenders is they still have all the personnel they need on offense to get it going.
That's
so
what I think. I think their offense should be fine.
They're still a dangerous team. They just got to figure it out. But if they can't figure it out, then they're not going to. So we'll see.
And we're missing some of the... They played with so much like swagger and they were doing creative shit, and they're not doing that anymore.
I think a lot of it is because, which we'll talk more about later, is like on first down and second down on like the easy completions, Cardale will just miss. So instead of getting like a 3-yard gain or a 4-yard gain, which then they can open up their playbook to kind of have yard specific plays, they got nothing. So
all right. Okay. All right. Let's just go into our recap now.
All right. We don't want to talk about the Guardians.
Talking about these games. Let's start with, you want to talk about the Guardians offense first?
Sure.
Okay, let's talk about the Guardians offense and the Wildcats defense. Okay, so first thing we have to talk about, right?
Luis.
You know what it is. Luis. My boy, getting the start. We had this debate. I was like, if Luis Perez, who I think is the better quarterback, does well in practice because they're splitting reps, he should win. And he should end up starting. Well, it looks like that probably happened.
Yes.
And I'm glad it did. We got to see Luis. His stats aren't gaudy, but goddamn, they're better than any other stats we've seen from a Guardians quarterback in the last few weeks. Yeah. So, I loved his efficiency. Here's the thing. He adds mobility, and I know DeMarcus Williams is mobile too, but it's a different kind. He has that improviser mobility.
Yes.
Where it's not like he just moves well out of the pocket in a way that he's still able to get a throw off. Whereas people like Cardale Jones and Marcus Williams, they do this where they're kind of running just to stay alive so that they can then reset their feet and then throw. Luis Perez moves in a way where he's running and he's looking to make the throw as he's running.
So I just want to point out, you hate Aaron Rodgers, yes?
I do hate Aaron Rodgers.
Which is literally, Luis Perez is literally Aaron Rodgers light. They have almost the same exact...
He's not a douche.
Okay, well, you don't know him, do you? Maybe he is.
He seems like a good guy, man.
Whatever. O.J. Simpson seemed like a nice guy, too.
Well, I wasn't alive for that, really, so can't tell you. Maybe if I was watching O.J., I feel like if I was watching O.J., I would have been like,
that guy's a double murderer.
I feel something sus here with O.J.
All I'm saying is he has...
I don't know. I wasn't alive for it.
He has the skill set of Aaron Rodgers to a T almost. Basically, everything that he does, he at least does something similar. I'm not saying that they're like comparable players in terms of like being good, because obviously not yet. But they do the same things. They're both
probably not ever.
Probably not ever. Well, anything can happen, but you're probably right. But they both kind of have the improviser mentality. They both have good. They both move around the pocket very well. This is Aaron Rodgers light. So expect more good things from him. Hopefully the Guardians can keep him protected. But he had a very good day. Hopefully he's the starter moving forward.
I just love how accurate he is. He's so damn accurate. And the thing, I know the general public sphere, so when this was first that we heard they were splitting reps, we talked about it, but I was also talking with some people on Twitter who were just very down on Luis Perez. Oh, that would be a bad decision. I want Marquise Williams, blah, 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 right? I think, and the perception was, and the reason they thought that, is because he's perceived as like a check down Charlie kind of guy.
Check down Charlie.
Check down.
Yeah.
But what it really is, he just plays smart. So a problem with a lot of these quarterbacks, a problem with Cardale Jones, a problem with Landry Jones, a problem with a couple other quarterbacks in this league, is they will force throws instead of going for 3 yards. And if you force a throw and it's an interception, I would have rather just got 1 yard, no gain, 2 yards, 3 yards. And that's the smart play to make. It's not that he can't make the big play. The big play just needs to be there. He's not going to create the big play, but if the big play's there, he will complete it and he'll find the big play. But he's not going to create a big play. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Well, Aaron Rodgers also just like hates his wide receivers. So
Aaron Rodgers also plays for the Packers, so that's why you don't like him. Anyways.
All right. Anything else you want to say about Luis Perez?
No. He played well. I hope he starts from here on out.
Okay. So they really spread the ball out.
Yes, they did.
On offense. They really got it to all their different guys. No one really stood out in this game as like a stud on, in terms of receiving.
Especially not fucking Mikhail McKay.
Yeah. He had some problems.
He had the worst drop I've ever
He
seen.
did get that one touchdown that was actually really beautiful.
Yes, he actually had the very nice touchdown catch. I'm more referring to his terrible, terrible drop. That would have been another touchdown, probably.
Yeah, probably.
So,
but you seem to really, when a guy makes one mistake, you really
it's just
go in on
when
him.
it's a really, really bad mistake. Like that was a really, really.
But
bad
at that point, they were like winning, and yeah, it sucked. But like, I don't know. I feel like you can.
I think it's because I've seen failure, being a Browns fan enough, that I'm just tired of seeing epic failure.
Right.
So
yeah, that might be it.
That's probably it.
But I don't hold anything against Mikhail McKay. He missed a pass.
I don't either. But
NFL receivers do that sometimes.
Yeah, but I don't hold it. I'm not going to be like, oh, Mikhail McKay sucks. But that play was rough. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But they still won the game.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, it's just he doesn't have as pretty of stats at this point.
Yes.
I don't know if there's really anyone I could pick out off the top of my head who had a fantastic game. But Darius Victor, in terms of the running the ball, had like a very solid game. He averaged 4.6 yards per carry, 82 yards on 18 carries. He's a rock, man.
Yeah.
I love watching him pound. Like he literally every play is like he hits like 4 different people before he goes down.
Yes, he's a bowling ball.
Everything's like a stiff arm, and he trucks them, or everything's just beautiful. It's not. He doesn't try to juke a single person. He's like, nope. Let me just try to hit you and see what happens.
Yep.
And it worked today, but hasn't been working all season, but it worked today. But it was great to see. Anything else you want to say about this offense?
Disappointed that I didn't see Justin Stockton today. Don't know what's up with that, but obviously it didn't really affect them. Not disappointed in the Guardians, just like, oh, man, where was he? So hopefully they work him in more because I really do like Justin Stockton. But, yeah, rushing attack was great. They spread the ball around because they could. Their O-line was still not fantastic, but it was good enough.
I agree.
So
it helps that the mobility helps.
Yes, the mobility does help, and the navigating the pocket definitely helps. Yes, still not very good in pass protection. Okay in the run, but the running backs did a lot of work themselves, which is fine. I mean, that happens sometimes. But still some stuff to work on. If they were to play a team like, say, with a front seven like the Roughnecks, they'd be in some trouble because they would get probably abused up front. If they played the Vipers now, the result would probably be different than it was in week 1 because they'd probably get beat up a lot more up front.
They are playing the Renegades next week. It's a great front seven. You
Can't
saw how
wait
it
to
did
be
against
wrong.
Philip Walker, who was running around. So that might be a bad week for them.
Perhaps.
At O-line.
Perhaps.
Okay. Let's talk about the Wildcats defense. I don't have too much to say here. I really don't think they played bad. I really don't. I don't think the Wildcats as a whole played bad. Yeah, I think there was some key mistakes and key things that would have changed the tide of this game, like 2 missed field goals.
Yeah, that's rough.
Then this is a 20-17 game.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
It's things like that you have to keep in mind. But I don't know if anything stuck out to me that this defense wasn't doing well. What stuck out to you?
So what sticks out to me is you can kind of see in the stat sheet, Ahmad Dixon, who plays safety, had 14 combined tackles. If you're safety, and he had 9 solo tackles. If your safety has 9 solo tackles, and you're not really, it's not like you're sending him in every down, that's bad. As a team.
Now, to be fair, he does play closer to the line.
Yes, he does. However,
he's more of that kind of hard-hitting linebacker
but
type.
that just means that basically running backs are getting to the second level a lot, which is rough. Not a good day from the front 4 D linemen at all, really, against the run at least for the Wildcats. They were okay, pass rushing wise. They've always kind of been all right. Just a lot of just penetration that wasn't happening. That's a weird way to say that. Let me roll that back.
The penetration game is weak.
The penetration game is really weak. Just not really winning one-on-one matchups. Kind of getting blown out of their gaps sometimes. And I think a lot of that, and they also it's hard to bring Darius Victor down, evidently, but you got to be better at tackling. I think that's pretty consistent throughout this whole league. Tackling is just not there for a lot of guys. There's really yet to be, Terrence Garvin is probably the only one I can really think of that's really and DeMarcus Gates too, that are really like if it's them versus a running back in the hole and there's nothing but green behind them, they'll make the stop that I can really think of.
Right.
Consistently. There's been players that have had flashes of that, but consistently it's really just been those two guys. Front 7 needs a little work for the Wildcats. Maybe they just had an off night.
Pass rush was good.
Pass rush was fine. It was fine. It could have been better because I think they had potential to be better. I think they could have played better, but they played fine.
You're right. They did play against a pretty bad O-line.
Yeah.
The pressure did get there.
Mobility
was the issue.
Mobility was the issue. Just run stopping up front and just gap integrity was not really there, and I think that's what hurt them in the end on the defensive side for them. Sorry, I kind of talked in circles there, but... Yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I think the biggest thing is that I still am impressed with this defense. I still think it's a good defense. I was impressed by their secondary in this game. I think they're a solid unit. Not one of the best in the league. But I think their defense is still a top defense. I think this game came more down to how the offense performed, even though they still had a pretty good day. I think it more comes down to how the offense performs. And on that note, let's talk about the offense for the Wildcats.
All right.
Josh Johnson, despite losing another big day, 330 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a 94 rating. He had a good day. He was connecting a lot with his new stud wide receiver that he got back last week, Trey McBride. We have to keep in mind that they were missing star Martez Carter, star Nelson Spruce, and Brandon Barnes was banged up.
Yes.
So we have to keep that in mind. But regardless, I think their offense was still clicking. My problem, the thing I noted with this, and I wrote down in my notes here, is that we know the key to beating the Guardians, and we've seen it every week, has been establishing the run and playing on how bad the run defense has been. Well, the Wildcats were like, let's not run the ball in this game. So I just feel like if they would have established the run, they would have had more of a chance.
I think a lot of that was they kind of got down early, so they wanted to get their points back quickly. So they kind of tried to go for the pass, but as it wasn't working, you kind of dig yourself into a deeper hole with that. Plus, their rushing attack, kind of all throughout the season, has been anemic at times. So they probably just don't trust it to kind of deliver as they feel it should. There were some drives where Josh Johnson looked a little off. He was still...
Yeah, he did today.
Yeah, he was still, of course, super good.
I'd say that came from the pressure. There was more pressure today than I think we've seen on Josh Johnson all year.
Yeah, it came from the pressure, and it also came from just him having to do a whole lot and not really getting a lot of help from his receivers or his rushing attack. Now, to say he didn't get any help from his receivers, Trey McBride still had a very good day.
Smallwood had a good day. I think all his receivers did fine. I know you gave me that point prior that because I didn't get to watch this game live that the receivers weren't helping, and really when I watched that game back because then I was looking for that. I was like, well, they're making plays enough. I think it really was that they were just not trying to run against this team. I think that was really the biggest problem for this offense. That's the thing that stands out for me.
Yeah. Now, as good as a day Trey McBride had. And, I mean, this isn't a knock on him because this isn't really the type of receiver he is. He was absolutely just destroyed by
Jamar
Summers. I couldn't think of his name for some reason. on one play and basically just gave him the ball. Can't do that, even if it's not your type of play, especially in a game that ended this close. However, he had a fantastic day to back it up, so can't really fault him too much for that.
I'd say the thing with that is Jamar Summers was like on Trey McBride all day, and it doesn't look great for Jamar Summers. But what I will say is Jamar Summers is one of the best man coverage corners in the league. And I think on that play and a route like that, that's the route he's going to excel on, is like an out-breaking route, something short, where he's right on top of you. You're more likely to have success running over the top of him like Trey McBride did.
Yep.
And you're right, Trey McBride's not that kind of receiver.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can't really fault him for that, because you can say, like, oh, be more physical. It's like, well, that's not what he's supposed to do. This team definitely missed Nelson Spruce on the underneath routes. Jordan Smallwood, while statistically had an okay day, really okay, had a pretty good day statistically, honestly. There were just little things he was doing, like he was kind of rounding off the top of routes that Nelson Spruce, like, he'll put a foot in the ground to turn, and there are corners to his routes. Jordan Smallwood, his routes are more rounded off. Just tiny little things that he'll get better at. I'm not saying he sucks or anything. He will get better at the more he develops. But this team definitely missed Nelson Spruce and his technical prowess today. And I know Josh Johnson missed him too. But I also agree with you. Abandoning the run was a mistake. They kind of figured,
especially it wasn't a blowout either. You know,
yeah,
like it's one of those games that was close enough where you could have continued to run the ball, and then they were having success when they were like, let's run the ball. And I was watching this game having already known the outcome, being like, oh wow, that run really worked. How do they not? Oh, their passes work. How are they not winning? And then I'm like, oh, they're like literally not trying to run the ball at all.
So
and
to me,
getting into third and long.
To me, that's a okay. We're playing the fucking Guardians. We can let's just fucking uncork this bitch because we're a better team than they are, which they are.
Yes,
but it didn't work. That's all. It just didn't work that time. What didn't work today, or what didn't work Saturday, will work another day. So,
yeah,
it's just tough breaks.
Okay, let's talk about the Guardians' defense.
All right,
I have some notes on this one. So I'm piggybacking here on the thing I said about them not running the ball enough, because that's the weakness of the Guardians, and that's how you exploit the Guardians, because their secondary is not nearly as bad as the run defense.
Yes.
And their pass defense isn't nearly as bad as the run defense. So I think what happened here is the O-line for the Wildcats were weakened by not being able to run the ball, because the front seven knew it was a pass play almost every down.
Yes.
Like they learned pretty early you were not going to run the ball.
Yes.
So then you can pin your ears back, you can rush the passer, your linebackers can drop in coverage without having to worry about play action, things like that. You know, they can just drop in coverage because they know it's going to be a pass play. And even though we think this offensive line is one of the best, they looked not great here compared to how much pressure was on Josh Johnson. This is the most pressure we've seen on Josh Johnson.
Yes, and I think what actually helped a lot with that, I think some of my boys on the Guardians actually stepped up today when they were tasked with shedding blocks. Frank Ginda didn't really have much in terms of like pass rush per se, but he could definitely create pressure. He won a lot of they ran him on a lot of delayed blitzes, so he'd kind of drop into a spiral and then go as soon as he saw something. There were some plays where he literally would just like club. Oh, it was great. I was like, "You're Frank," because I love Frank Ginda. Ben Heaney had another solid day. He, again, not too flashy, but he's really good. He's probably the best player on this defense. Yeah, front seven wise. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
I was going to mention other players that I liked. Joey Mbu, even though he doesn't, if you look at his stat, Mbu? I think it's Mbu.
You're probably
right. If
you
look at his stat line, you don't see shit. But he was literally, he doesn't have anything under QB hits, but if there was QB pressures category, there'd be a ton.
Plus,
he'd have a ton here.
Joey Mbu is kind of your classic, just big old D-tackle dude. So he's really there to free up space, which he did. And kind of the one things we said last week was that the Guardians D-line did not do a good job of sucking up blockers for their linebackers to move in, because I think that's what their defense is built to do. And Joey Mbu did really, really well with that this time. So hope that keeps up.
Jarrell Owens, okay? Who was he going against? Because that's not good.
Whoever,
I want to know what offensive lineman he was going against.
So he's a DN, but they switched him in. They moved him around a lot because they like to do like stunts and shit like that. I'm assuming Because it's not him. Oh my God,
He had a dominant day. 2 sacks, 4 QB hits, 2 tackles for loss. He was dominating wherever he was.
Yeah. So I don't think it was the left side primarily, because I think he would either start on the left and then they would run a stunt or not a scrape. What is it called? Whatever.
You played D-line, not me.
I barely played D-line. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. But I don't think it was Storm Norton on the left side. I think it was probably a combination of the right side of the line and the interior. And a lot of that's just because stunts are really fucking hard to block. Because you have to know kind of that they're coming, and otherwise you just have to react. And with the talent level at the XFL, I don't know if the guys really are set up to react. Stunts suck to block. They're awful. They make me want to die.
You made me have flashbacks to where I remember playing O-line in high school, and I'd start blocking and there'd be no one in front of me. I'd be like, well, I guess I'm not doing anything this play.
And then it'd be a sack.
Instead of looking where my guy went.
Yeah. No, stunts are really hard to block because as an O-lineman, you're told you don't have a like sometimes you have a man, but most of the time it's like this. If anyone comes here, like this is your gap. This is what you got. So you're like, okay, he left my gap. I don't gotta worry about it. Oh shit. So it just sucks. Stunts suck. They're evil. When I'm playing defense, I like them. In Madden, it's impossible to run a stunt because Madden's terrible. Yeah. But yeah, he had a very good day. Yes. Mini rant, sorry.
For their secondary, Jamar Summers obviously had a great day. I know he was matched up against Trey McBride a lot. Not the whole game. He wasn't shadowing him. But I don't think any of those egregious long gains for Trey McBride were on Jamar Summers, if I can remember correctly.
I think a lot of it's
He's a good man coverage corner. I think his struggles are in zone. Because I remember last week I was like, I'm ready to give up on Jamar Summers. Because I think he was in zone a lot now that I'm looking back on it. And then this game, watching him be in man a lot, I think he's just a really good man coverage corner.
Yeah, and I also think that a lot of Trey McBride's receptions were just him being really good. He had the one that was just beautiful, and it was like, oh, okay, nothing really you can do about that because it was just such a great catch. So, positive day for the Guardians. I still have them at 8 in my power rankings just because I need to see them string it together. That's all. Can't really. It might be who do they play next week? Do you know off the top of your head?
Next week, I have the schedule right here.
All right.
They play the Roughnecks.
Oh, we talked about that. Well, we'll see. I mean, if they look even decent now, okay. The last time we talked about like, oh, there's gonna be a fucking beatdown was the Vipers and the Roughnecks, which is actually one of the better games ever in this league. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Kind of excited, honestly. I don't want to see a beatdown at all. So hopefully,
no one does.
Yeah, hopefully they can kind of get that going, and it'd be exciting to see them be better because I think they're one of the markets that the XFL really wants to push. So,
yeah. Okay, so that's all we have to talk about in this game, I assume.
Yep.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
Nope.
Okay, let's move on to a game you must have been emotionally invested in.
I was emotionally invested in.
It was the Dragons at the Battlehawks. It was the second game of Saturday.
Yes.
So let's start this one off. With the St. Louis offense and Dragons defense.
Okay. So
you go ahead.
All right, we're going to start with the Jordan Tomu report as always. He was good.
He was more than good.
He was fantastic. He's really fucking good. I'm so happy that he is good, and I'm just happy that my son is performing. Hopefully he can get up out of here soon. Even though I think this is actually a really good spot for him to develop. Just to coach.
I know it's like you can. What's great? One of my favorite things I've noticed with John. So, can I give you a little disclaimer about Jordan Tomu? Not a disclaimer.
Give me a little disclaimer.
Little nugget I want to say.
Give me that nugget.
I'm now on board with Jordan Tomu.
You weren't on board at this point.
I'm done looking for the flaws. I think he is developing every single game.
Yes.
And that's something I like to see.
He's getting more calm.
He is 22.
He's only fucking 22. I'm fucking older than Jordan Tomu. That's nuts.
I know, we're both older than Jordan Tomu.
He's getting more poise.
This guy's getting better every single game. You know what we can do? We can start doing now, Thomas?
What can we start doing?
We can start calling players kids. Man, that kid was good today.
God,
I love watching this kid grow before my eyes.
I will never call a player a kid until I am at least 30.
I love watching this kid grow before my eyes.
Oh, so
Each and every week, man, he's improving.
His poise is improving.
fantastic.
He looks way more comfortable. His timing, even though it wasn't really a problem before, is even better, and that kind of comes with practice.
Okay. For Jordan Ta'amu, for me, it was just his game. I think you want to know what I think was the biggest difference in this game? Not the biggest difference, because it's not like he was bad, but what really worked in this game
What?
was that they decided to really lean on the option.
Yes.
Like, they really leaned in on the option in this one. Let me look at the stats. I'm saying all this off the top of my head. I mean, look at the stats. Jordan Ta'amu, 16 attempts for 63 yards, 3.9 average. I mean, I think the difference was just him. He ran the ball so well today because I think this team sold out to stop the running back.
Yeah.
And they weren't expecting, because it's not like he's been, like, killing it on the ground. He's been good on the ground. But they haven't really run option like this.
Yeah.
At least it hasn't appeared. They seem to be more like improvised running
like
plays
if
for
it's
Jordan
not
Ta'amu, where
there-
this was like...
Yeah, it was like designed, like, yo, run the damn ball.
What else worked for the offense for you besides Jordan Ta'amu?
I want to say their receiving unit, initially, at the beginning of the season, I believe Ivan was like, man, there's nothing really here. They have a surprisingly very, very solid receiving unit. Just it's kind of a new person every week. Consistently, it's been Pearson L. But
the clear number one.
But they spread it around pretty often, and everyone kind of seems in a position to succeed. So just really, really solid receivers, technical receivers. No one who's really like very sloppy, and no one who kind of gets by on just pure athleticism. Most of them very just technical guys that are good at playing receiver and good at playing football.
Right.
Keith Ford, even though
Keith Mumphrey,
Keith Mumphrey, not Kevin Mumphrey, as I think you said one time.
Keith Mumphrey was great.
Yes, Keith Mumphrey was fantastic. Everyone was quite good. Keith Ford being back, even though he only got 3 attempts, was really good. I'm really happy that they kind of have the flexibility to kind of, with Matt Jones down, they can kind of be like, well, fuck it. We still have Christian Michael, who actually, statistically, didn't really look like he had a good day. He was fine. He played all right.
But he looked better than he had.
He looked better than he has. He looked more comfortable. He looked more patient. He didn't try to bounce everything outside. He just kind of would hit the hole, get 2 yards, and be done with it, which is fine. That's what you need to be sometimes.
I think they've changed him, because we mentioned this last week, how the first 2 games they were trying to use him as an outside option, pitches, stuff to the outside, and now they've decided, let's just run up the middle with Christian Michael and see what we can get, and that's probably how you should use him.
Yeah. So I mean, statistically, if you look at it pure stats, the running backs didn't have a very good day, but a lot of that is because they ran the option more, and they were playing to stop the running backs, so Jordan Ta'amu instead had a very good day rushing.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else you want to talk about on this offense?
The uniforms are fucking great.
Your guys' offensive line is fantastic.
Yep. It's real good. They're well coached.
Okay. All right, let me talk about... Actually, you know who I want to single out before we go on to the defense?
Go for it.
What is it? Matthew McCants?
Yes,
McCants?
Matt McCants.
He looks really good.
Yes.
I was watching him the whole game. He's gigantic, first off.
He's a large man.
Huge.
And he's kind of been
but he's
around.
very fast.
Yes. So
very fast for as big as he is. He can get to the linebackers in a second.
Yes. So if you go back to our draft episode, which was forever ago,
episode 1.
Was it shit? Basically, Matt McCants is a big old athlete that I was like, you could play O-line, and he's like, yeah, fuck it. So yes, he's very athletic. I think he's 30, if not 31, and he's been in the NFL a while. So he's got experience. He's got the athleticism. He's good.
Well, let me double check that age, because if that's true, I have another really good thing to say about him.
All right.
He is 30.
Yes.
Okay, so being 30, having played in the NFL for so long, and now playing in the XFL, the fact that dude plays to the whistle on every play is impressive.
O-linemen.
The fact that he's not giving up on it.
O-linemen are not soft. They're the least soft on the field.
That was the only last thing I wanted to know. Actually, one more thing to know
Okay.
about Jordan Ta'amu. He needs to slide more.
Yeah.
He needs to slide.
Well, he's a young buck, so he's like, fuck it, I'm not a pussy. You can also see Joe Burrow do this at LSU, and it's like, stop it. You're going to die. Because if you get to the NFL and fucking... What's an example? I don't know. Like...
Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, Bobby Wagner will kill you. So, please slide. It doesn't mean you're soft. It's what you're supposed to do. Hey, maybe you'll get a penalty and then they're 10 yards because the NFL is really stupid about protecting quarterbacks. So just fuck it. Slide. Please slide. Oh, God, please slide.
Okay, let's talk about this defense now. I've been trying to get here for a minute.
All right.
I know I love this defense.
Yes, you love them. You just called them abysmal.
I do love this defense. But now they're my favorite defense in the league, so I can't even stand behind that anymore. Okay, so despite losing this game, Dragons defense still great.
Yep.
Their pass rush is crazy.
Yep.
It's still really good. The only problem in this game, and the only reason it might not have looked like their pass rush is crazy, is because super tall, super strong Jordan Tamuk could stand in the pocket and deliver in the corner of the end zone while getting smacked by 3 people.
Yes.
And that's something I noticed. Like, there was one, I think it was only an extra point. An extra point. That's the name of our show.
Oh.
He got smacked in the back and in the front, and it was still like an absolute dime. They talked to him, and he was like, yeah, I was getting wrecked. I just threw it to where I knew he was going to be, and he got there.
Which is
and then he went
the right answer.
What? Go ahead.
That's
and then
great.
I think going into halftime, they asked him something, and he was like, it's going to be great when I'm not getting smacked in the back. Like, he just apparently got smacked in the back a lot by pass rushers. So, yes, that pass rush is still very good. Only other thing I'd mention, I want to point out some players on this team. Let me look at the stats real quick, because someone is escaping my mind. So, Jeremy Clark was a guy I like a lot. He's super tall and super lengthy corner, and he's great in coverage. But there's a linebacker that I didn't write his name down, and it's making me sad now. And I was hoping, obviously Frazier is still good. He's been good. Will Sutton's been good.
Talking about Steven Johnson?
It is Steven Johnson. Steven Johnson was an absolute monster in this game in coverage and rushing the passer and stopping the run.
Yes.
He was literally everywhere on the field.
Yep.
I think he leads the league in tackles at this point. I've lost my stats page now. I found it again.
There it is.
What did he have in this game? Let me look at the actual stats.
Yeah.
So he had
8
8 combined tackles, which is not, game-breaking, but he's consistently at the top of these lists. He's leading the league. He's really good in coverage, too. Like, he's literally the most versatile linebacker, I think, in the XFL.
All right.
So, I love Steven Johnson. Anything you want to say about this defense?
They absolutely sold out to stop the run, which was absolutely the right move, because the Battlehawks really had not even remotely been an option team before this game. So they did everything right, and basically they still got chat on because they're like, oh, what the fuck? So they're good defense. They are well coached. They'll be one to watch out for if they can figure out their offense. Transition.
Okay. Transition to the Dragons offense.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about what happened in the second half.
All right.
So, do you remember what happened in the second half?
BJ Daniels.
Yeah. So, I have my concerns about BJ Daniels, but I also have an optimistic outlook as well, as I usually do. BJ Daniels, from what I saw in this game, small sample size, right, is not as good at throwing the ball as Quentin Flowers.
No.
Right? So it's not an easy comp because BJ Daniels is a lot more inaccurate than Flowers, just from what I could see in this game. Obviously, running the ball, he is a monster.
Yeah.
So my proposal to this Dragons team is you have a great defense, and you have a quarterback who is probably the best player on your team, which is sad. I mean, best...
offensive player.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you have no weapons at wide receiver, and I'll talk about that in a second.
Oh, okay. I disagree, but go on.
They don't.
All right, keep going.
But, and that's been the issue for them. I think having Keenan Reynolds as your number one guy is not a good thing. Because he's... Compared to other receiving cores around the league, I think if Keenan Reynolds is your best receiver, and they go to him probably the most, that's an issue.
Okay.
And what they should do all right, and you're going to probably disagree with me here,
Probably.
is they should become a high school offense.
No.
And that's going to sound absolutely awful. But have you ever, in high school, the quarterback is literally always the best player in your team. He's the fastest runner.
Well,
he could probably play any position on the offense.
if you're talking
He
about
runs-
our high school, that is not.
Well, this wasn't the case. But in general, but when we weren't on varsity, though, do you remember what was the name of the guy who broke the Texas rushing record at quarterback?
Well, Tyler Page, yeah, but
No, but this was while we were in school. So
Jordan.
What was his name? Jordan Wood?
Yeah, Jordan Wood. The Storm and
So-
Mormon.
So it's okay to have a running back, and especially when you don't have weapons a quarterback, especially when you don't have weapons for him to throw to. I think Brandon Silvers is the better thrower of the ball.
Yes.
100%.
I agree.
He's the better quarterback. But BJ Daniels lets you do more because you don't have weapons anyway, and even if you had Brandon Silvers in there, the weapons aren't there to help him succeed. He's not fantastic. I'd rather have a guy who could run for 100 yards a game than a guy who can only pass for 40, 50, 60, 100. And you just got to hope that your defense steps up. So that's my proposal.
Okay. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I do think that Silvers has kind of had his chance, and he's just been too inconsistent. So I'd say fuck it. Kind of change your offense a little bit and roll with BJ, I would say, for the rest of the season, unless his limitations as a passer become too much, because he does have limitations. What has hurt this team more than anything is Casey Williams is still hurt. That sucks. It's not
fair. Idea.
Yes.
I'm not ready to say they have good weapons because Casey Williams hurt. I don't know what we're gonna get out of Casey Williams.
And I know he didn't have a good day, but you don't like Austin Prohl?
Not as your go-to guy.
Fair. Yeah, Austin Prohl is a solid number 2 guy. I think Keenan Reynolds is also kind of the same mold as that. Different skill set, but not necessarily your number 1 dude.
I just don't think they have a number 1 guy on this team.
I think if Kaysen were there, it would be that.
I wanted to see that before but I think for the time being, until Kaysen comes back, you just need to run an offense like they do in high school, where you run the ball or you let the quarterback look like he's going to throw it, but he's really just going to run the ball.
I mean, we'll see. It just kind of depends on what Jim Zorn wants to do with that and what he's comfortable with. He might not be comfortable with that at all. That might not be in his wheelhouse. So we might even see.
To be fair,
yes.
Jim Zorn, I don't think is comfortable with anything. He's
not.
not supposed to be calling plays.
Yeah, that's true. That's
because
weird to me.
they're still waiting for their OC to come back.
That's weird. I would have found a replacement by now, but
I know. So he's not supposed to be calling plays. So I bet he's like, whatever works, do that.
Fuck it. That's kind of the whole thing with the Dragons, is that it's just there's a whole amalgamation of things that are like, what the fuck is going on? So yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that they should kind of be more of a run-heavy offense, but I don't know if you can just completely, obviously not completely take the pass out, but just kind of be like a one-dimensional team. I don't know if that would work, is all. Because then if you get,
I don't think this season is gonna be a good one for them.
Neither do I, but I also don't think that I don't think BJ is good enough to where when it's a situation where it's like you have to pass, this has to be completed, he can do that. And honestly,
but you also don't want to. You have to make a decision, though.
I wouldn't be surprised if Silvers came back next week. If they're just like, he was rough.
Yeah, neither would I.
Yeah, he's like, it was a rough go of it. He's fine. We'll see. Because who do they play next week?
Let's see. They play the Wildcats.
Okay, I could kind of see whatever they want to do there. We'll see. So.
Yeah, I think what they need to do. They have a great defense. They have talent on their defense. Either they need to try to trade for a wide receiver or just kind of do the best you can with this high school offense until next season where you can draft a wide receiver. Because that's really... I think that is the biggest issue with this offense. I don't even want to blame it on Brandon Silvers.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like he's at an unfair advantage. This is still the worst wide receiving core in the XFL. I don't think there's a worse one.
Let me use my brain.
And I'll let you think about it.
You're probably right, but let me use my brain.
The closest you could get would be the Vipers.
No, Vipers are quite solid, actually.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I would
this is clearly the
several
worst.
other teams.
The Wildcats have 2 studs and a pretty good third option.
Yeah, I guess.
Guardians have Mikhail McKay, who should be good, and then they have Colby Pearson, who's kind of Austin Prohl type.
Oh, no, they're not at all. They are not the same just because they're white.
Colby Pearson and Austin Prohl.
They're not the same type of receiver.
Slot running backs.
Short white guys
playing wide receiver.
Short white guys.
No.
I
think you have problems in your head, Thomas.
They are different types.
You
of
instantly
receivers.
made that association.
They are different types of receivers for sure. You racist.
I think you'd be wrong if you look at the tape.
I've looked at the tape, so I know I'm correct.
All right, go on.
Yes,
So,
but I agree with you. I think the Silvers, the Seattle Dragons have the worst bunch of receivers. Again, really hurts them. The Casey Williams is out. I think he would be pretty damn good if he could just get healthy. But I don't even know really the specifics of his injury. So it could be a thing where he's like, my shit's fucked, and then he's not gonna play this year. So hopefully that's not it, but we'll see. Did Isaiah Battle play this game?
What did you just say?
Sorry, my voice gave out. Did Isaiah Battle play this game?
Did Isaiah Battle play this game?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It didn't make a huge difference either way, but
Yeah.
I think that's because
Yeah.
the Battlehawks defense is so good. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Battlehawks.
Let's
defense.
fucking transition. Look at that. All right. Do you want me to start or do you want to go?
Anything you want to say about this defense right off the top of your head? Nothing stuck out to me crazy about this. They're just a super solid
Yeah,
unit.
they were just really solid.
Obviously, there's problems when Brandon Silver's on the field. And then this game got close in the second half. The defense sort of fell apart once they had to go against a mobile quarterback.
Well, I think it's just
So
something
that scares me.
Yeah, I think it's just something they weren't exactly ready for. I think, mobile quarterbacks, especially when you're an athlete the caliber of BJ Daniels, like sometimes they just win. So while they didn't necessarily have the best day statistically, I still think they're pretty damn good. One disappointment. Where is he? Darius Hillary wasn't very good in coverage that day. He kind of let some things kind of get by him. But their front seven was still quite good. They would lose contain, but also BJ Daniels would just escape. It happens again, like I said, when you're an athlete of his caliber. So, still a very solid unit. Nothing super flashy. William Hilliam with the game-sealing pick was nice, and the interviews after were great. Something I also noticed is that I don't know if this is just I'm a little biased probably, but the Battlehawks kind of seem like the most together team of everybody, or at least they have the most positive vibe about them. Just kind of on the sidelines and everything, and that might just be because A, I like them, and B, they're winning. But I don't know. And on the opposite end of that, we'll talk about the game later. But yeah, they just seem very positive. Jonathan Hayes seems to have like a head up on mostly everybody besides a few of the coaches in terms of just feeling like he's a head coach, if that makes sense. He just kind of commands respect as he's out there. But yeah, their defense still had a pretty good day. Nothing much more to say about that. They were solid.
Yeah, there's not really much to say about this defense. I want to congratulate the O-line for the Dragons.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't too much pressure here.
Yeah.
And that's something we've seen the Battlehawks been able to do, even though I wouldn't say they're one of the best in the league at it. They're still very solid at it. Mm-hmm. But I think they contained whatever pass rush was. This was a winnable game for the Dragons.
Yes, it was.
So I think if they would have made the switch to BJ Daniels sooner,
possibly,
they probably would have won this game.
Possibly.
They probably would have won this. All the momentum, I think, was in the Dragons' favors going into the second half.
Possibly.
But, okay. Let's move on to our third game we're going to talk about. All right. This is
Battle for
the
Texas.
game of the week. This is the game of the week, in my opinion. Whatever you want to call it. I don't like the Texas Throwdown. I'm not like a big fan of that. I like the XFL Bowl more.
XFL, that is the way better name.
But then XFL was like Texas Showdown.
Texas at the high noon at the Alamo.
Listen to your fans and call it the XFL.
XFL is a far superior name. That is such a better name that has to be like copyrighted to where they can't use it or something. for something else because it's so much better than the Texas Showdown. Oh, Texas. The South.
All right, let's start with this Dallas offense.
All right.
And the Roughnecks defense. So Landry Jones continued his tradition of being absolutely shit in the first half.
Yeah, just not seeing people making dumb mistakes that he's consistently made. His first interception was not on him, or was it his second?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Which one are you talking about?
The one where Jazz Ferguson was like, dunk, and then it flew into I think that was the first one.
Yeah. I don't know if I agree with you on that, actually.
Okay.
Because the guy had two guys on him.
The Flynn Nagel one.
Now, I know you need to make that catch, but that wasn't the best decision.
Well, but that's also, like, as Jazz Ferguson, like, that's your guy for that. You know what I mean? Like, he's supposed to be your go-up-and-get-it guy. So the fact that that's the result is
But
like,
it wasn't a go-up-and-get-it pass.
I mean, it's still doable.
It was like 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage, and there was a linebacker in a corner on him, and the linebacker was all over him. The corner was right there.
I still wouldn't.
Low throw,
I wouldn't put that one.
Hands and bounced up.
I wouldn't put that one on Landry Jones personally. I'd put that on Jazz Ferguson.
Yeah, I just don't think it was a great decision.
And
that's just not where I would have thrown it.
And the one where it bounced off of Flynn Nagel's hands as well. That was bad.
But that was Philip Nelson.
Was that Philip Nelson? Are you sure? It doesn't says he threw an interception.
I thought that was after Philip Nelson came in.
So did I.
Okay,
so
can
I'm
I also
confused.
point something else?
Oh, was that on Xtra?
These stats aren't always great.
Okay. Was that also on a? Was that also?
I've heard people complain of things being reported wrong.
Inaccurate. Okay. Was that also on a? Was that on a touchdown, or was that on like a regular play, or was that on like a PAT?
You know what? I think it was on a PAT.
Okay, that's why it doesn't count then.
No, it was on a regular play because then
Okay.
they got the ball right
Well,
there at the.
Then
It was on a regular play.
Then that was
I don't know.
definitely Philip Nelson.
I swear that was Philip Nelson.
I was pretty sure it was too. I'm staring at this, and that's what I was confused. But that was also not on Philip Nelson. That was on Flynn Nagel. You got to catch that dude. At the very least, just catch it and go down. Like, come on.
And how I know it was Philip Nelson's because Landry Jones had 3 interceptions in the first quarter.
Yes.
So it would have said 4 here.
Whatever the Jazz Ferguson one, we'll call it, or I'll concede a little bit. We'll say it's 80-20 Jazz Ferguson's fault. The other 2 were just really bad, though. So.
Yeah. Okay. So what did work for this team was Lance Dunbar.
Running the football.
And once again, let me point out that this team did not run the ball very much in the first half.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know what they're doing either, because that is what has worked every time they do it, and that's how they always end up getting back in games, because they are like, when it's usually Cameron Artis-Payne, but this game was like Lance Dunbar, and it was one drive where it seemed like every single play went to Lance Dunbar.
Maybe
and they got right on the goal line.
Maybe they're giving running backs coach Bobby Blizzard the cold shoulder.
Ha ha! He was the running back.
Bobby Blizzard. That's his real fucking name. Can you fuck it? Jeez, I'm Bobby Blizzard. What's up? It's not like a Dairy Queen mascot.
They must have just. I'm looking more at these stats now. This is more of a commentary on how they report these stats.
Yeah.
Flynn Nagel doesn't have a drop apparently. 6 targets for 6 receptions, but that's not true.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they obviously didn't report that one well.
Interesting.
But Flynn Nagel overall had a good game. Besides that terrible play, Donald Parham still clearly the number 1 guy.
Yes.
There was one play Landry Jones threw where Donald Parham used his size to the best of his ability that I thought was beautiful. He just stood up in the back of the end zone, and the ball was placed pretty much exactly where it needed to be, which is also great.
Yeah.
I think this team is not better off without Landry Jones.
Without Landry Jones, I don't.
Yeah.
But yes, but I don't know how much better off they are with Landry Jones.
Well, that's kind of the same thing, Thomas.
Not really.
I mean, that's just a double negative.
No, because I mean, like, obviously Philip Nelson might not be the dude, but Landry Jones, the reason they would get into these holes is because he would have these 2 terrible throws or 3 terrible throws.
I would blame a lot of it on play calling.
I disagree.
Now, Landry Jones also made bad decisions, but he probably shouldn't have been in the... Okay, you notice a trend after a couple weeks, that when you start passing it deep, it's not working as well as it should be. So then you're like, okay, well, let's do short intermediate, and let's run the ball. And then they're like, no, let's just continue to try doing what doesn't work.
Sure, but I would agree with you.
You're forcing the issue.
No, I would agree with you if the throws that were picked off mostly by Landry Jones weren't just like awful awful, terrible.
But that obviously
interceptions.
isn't in his skill set.
That isn't a skill set. The one where
Apparently not. Well,
throwing
apparently
the
not.
ball at all. The
'Cause
one
it's
where it
not
was
working.
the middle of the field and it was like a 12-yard pass. That was terrible. That should never have ever been thrown.
I'd say most of his interceptions come off him trying to go deep when I don't know. If
I
he
would
has that
say
ability.
most of his interceptions come off of either pressure in his face and he can't handle it, or him just not seeing somebody in the
And do
flat
you know
zone.
how you deal with pressure? You run the ball.
Not necessarily.
I mean, it takes a lot of pressure off the quarterback when linebackers and D tackles and ends have to play the run. You can't establish play action until you've established the run.
I agree that the Renegades need to run more, but I don't think it's. I think this team has deeper problems than that. I don't think that's going to be
Yeah,
like the quick fix.
I don't know if I think that would be a pretty good fix to just start running the ball more. But Philip Nelson doesn't add anything else. He also can't throw deep. So if you try
I think Philip Nelson
to make
can.
him throw deep, if you're going to just run the exact same offense you did with Landry Jones, you're going to have another problem.
I think
It's gonna be
Philip
the same
Nelson can throw deep. I think he's better than Landry Jones at throwing deep. I'll put that out.
thing. Yeah.
I just think that I don't know. I think quarterback play is the main thing holding this team back. I think if they had if they had Landry Jones minus one Galaxy Brain pick, I think they would probably have won this game. To be honest with you.
Well, they were in position to win this game, or at least tie it up.
Most of the games they've lost
and
with
then
Landry
Philip
Jones.
Nelson threw an interception
Yeah.
that was on Flynn Nagel.
Yes, most of the games that they've lost. Well, let's look at their fucking schedule because I can just do that.
You can, or I can look at it for you.
No, I got it. It's right here. Wow, they only
They lost to the Battlehawks in Week 1.
Oh, so they only lost. That was the only. Wow. Okay, I thought they lost one more. I thought they lost to the Wildcats for some reason.
No.
But okay, then I'll flip it a little bit. I think they would have won more handedly had they just had a quarterback that didn't make an awful decision just consistently, and that's what kind of Landry Jones has been doing. I think they probably have. I think they would have won this game if they had, say, like a Charles Kanoff or whatever, or what's his new real name?
Charles Kanoff.
Charles Kanoff. I think so.
Yes. But I think that lies more into what I was saying.
I
where
agree.
I do feel like they could have success with Philip Nelson
Mm-hmm.
because I think what they did in Week 1 against the Battlehawks, even though they end up losing that game,
Mm-hmm.
is probably what their team is better suited to do, which is run the ball
Mm-hmm.
and play the short intermediate game. And even though you have a guy like Jeff Badet, Jeff Badet, I think all your other receivers and your running backs too are great receiving weapons.
All I'm
You
saying
just
is
play more cautiously.
all I'm saying is what they're doing now could work if they didn't just have an epic fuck up from the quarterback position twice a game. That's all.
Yeah,
What they're doing now could work.
I just feel like there's few quarterbacks in this league who, if they were running the same offense, would be doing that much better than Landry Jones.
I disagree.
I mean, maybe I don't even think, because I want to be honest with you, and I'm ready to hear you shit on me.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan how many deep balls has Jordan Ta'amu thrown?
Very
this
little.
year? Not too many.
Very little. But I mean, that's not his game.
Yeah.
So,
But what if they all of a sudden were like, next week we're throwing deep
I still think he could do it.
every play?
I think he could do it. But
But what's worked. I just feel like you got to lean into what works.
yes,
And this team just loves not to lean into what
and they
works.
should be running more, but also what they're doing could work if not for just 2 stupid picks a game, because that's what the average has been. It's been 2 terrible picks a game.
Well, I'm ready. I can't wait for next week because it'll be the prove it or lose it. If Landry Jones or if Philip Nelson runs the exact same offense that Landry Jones has been running since he's been back and performs better, then yep, Landry Jones is bad.
Yeah.
That's really. I mean, that's just realistically what it'll be.
Now,
I think if we see that he makes the same kind of mistakes because it's just not an offense that works for whatever type of quarterback they have, then we'll know.
And we'll see.
So that'll be interesting to watch. But now, all right, let's talk about the defense for the Roughnecks.
All right.
This was absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
It was a great day for them. My early defensive MVP candidate, now this is sort of a spoiler, but DeMarcus Gates had a great day. He's always there. These stats are just all wrong. You know what they also don't have here?
What?
They don't have his interception listed.
Huh.
They don't have DeMarcus Gates' interception listed.
That's...
Which was they must have just taken that play out completely.
I wonder why.
They're like, it never happened.
I wonder why. Are you sure that was
Well, if you guys didn't know.
PAT? Are we sure?
No, because they got the ball. I'm 100% sure because then they got the ball right there.
I'm doubting myself
right?
now. Yes.
And then they that was to seal the game.
Some poor
That
intern.
was when Philip Nelson came in.
Some poor intern or some poor minimum wage employee is going to get fired because he forgot what important play happened. Unfortunate.
But anyway, so DeMarcus Gates had a big day. Always great in coverage. Always great in stopping the run. Him paired up with Edmund Robinson, I'm ready to say that is the best, if not, or one of the best, if not the best, duo of linebackers in the league. Obviously, Edmund Robinson had one huge play today.
Yes.
It was that sack, forced fumble, fumble recovery, and touchdown.
He killed him.
All in one play. So that was great.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything you want to point out?
What I will say about the Roughnecks defense is kind of the same thing I've been saying week to week. Their D-line does such a good job just maintaining their gaps and winning their matchups, just occupying their offensive linemen, that it makes work pretty easy for the LBs, at least in run stopping and at least in just kind of maintaining the short area. So that's really good. Their D-line's fantastic.
Can I point out something on this stat sheet real quick that's funny?
Go ahead.
Why does it say P.J. Walker has a quarterback hit?
Some's not right. Unless Yeah, I don't know about that. Do they mean is it
Did they line him up at D-line at some point in the game and I missed it?
Absolutely not. Yeah, I don't know. That's a little weird. Okay, well, the stats are a little off.
All right, go on. What was your point?
That was my point. Was all. I don't think I had another point.
Oh, okay. The secondary today was also great.
Yeah, but I think also, not taking anything away from
more
them,
than
of
the
course.
turnovers. More than the turnovers.
Yes,
Because I'm
not
sure
taking
that was the point you're about to make.
Not taking anything away from them, but like you said, more than the turnovers, because Landry Jones did serve up 2 of them. But also, I think a lot of that, they have a lot of where the pressure gets there, and they don't have to like kind of hold on for as long as usual. But not to take anything away from them, they're still a very good unit. There's the very front 7 heavy defense, which is fine. I actually prefer that. So,
Okay, well, let's talk about the Roughnecks offense. You know what? This might be, and this is weird to say, because this might be P.J. Walker's worst game.
yeah.
But it's not like it was a bad game.
No.
It's just comparatively to the other ones, it was the worst one.
And the pick he threw was really more Darren Smith being a beast baller than anything else.
That was a great play by Darren Smith.
Yes.
But I just think what happened in this game more so than any other game he's been is his mobility wasn't working for him in the right way.
Yes.
Like, I think they were much better at containing him.
Yeah.
They must have made that a point in practice.
Yeah, they really sold out.
Get outside.
Yeah, they sold out for contain, and actually it kind of hurt them later on in certain areas. But they really sold out to make sure that he couldn't escape and kind of do his Kyler Murray act. So,
So that we didn't see much of that today. There wasn't actually a ton of him getting outside the pocket and making that jumpy, risky pass he likes to make, and that works somehow. Still, even without that, his accuracy is still the best in the league. Like, you see it on, it's small things like, outbreaking routes and little things like that where it's such a tight window and it's just a perfect spot where it goes right where it needs to go.
he's big good.
Yes, he's still the best quarterback. Despite having not the best game today, still the best quarterback.
He is the big
Not
good.
much you can say.
Yes.
Nick Hawley had a big day. Nick Hawley had a big day. I love Nick Hawley just because he has one of the best stories, and he has this like redneck vibe that I kind of fuck with. But he also seems like one of those rednecks who's also still like super like open and loving.
What the fuck does that mean?
I'm trying to say without Like he just seems like he's like an accepting.
He's
nice
not a
dude,
MAGA guy. Is that what you're saying?
He's not a what?
A MAGA guy?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's essentially what I'm saying.
Okay.
He doesn't have like deep South redneck vibes. He has like redneck who moved to the city and like people like him.
He doesn't seem like a racist.
Yeah, essentially. He doesn't seem like a racist.
You heard it here
That's
first.
essentially what
Justin
I'm trying
thinks
to
all
say.
people from the South are racists.
I'm from the South.
You were technically not
And
from
you're
the,
from the
South.
South.
I'm also
I
technically
was born
not
in
from
Richmond,
the South.
Virginia.
Were you really? I didn't know that.
So
I thought you were born in Minnesota.
what? No. What?
I don't know why that was in my head. Richmond, Virginia. Technically,
Richmond, Virginia.
while that is part of the Confederacy, that is more north than...
But still technically a southern state. But yes, I'm from the South. Now, I lived many years in California, but I'm still technically from the South.
Fair enough.
I don't think all Southerns are racist. I'm just saying, all right?
I'm just
There's like a
giving you shit,
stereotypical redneck, right? He looks like a stereotypical redneck.
What does that
but it
mean?
seems like he has a kind heart.
You're just
But
digging your
looks like-
grave here.
Like, I think he's missing teeth. Legit. I think he's missing teeth, and he has like
Okay, if he actually is missing
I don't know. He
teeth,
just has
that's
that look
different.
about him, you know.
All right. Looks like his name is Cletus, and he works at a John Deere plant.
Yes. Yes. You're right. That's the vibe I get from his appearance. And he's very Southern. Have you heard him speak?
He is very Southern.
He's a deep Southern accent.
He's a good
He
old
seems like
boy.
a nice guy. He seems like a nice guy.
Yes.
But anyway, off that rant about Nick Hawley,
And
he was getting open
white
all
people
day.
from the South.
Who did not have a good game? Cam Phillips.
Yep.
Because he was locked up by Joshua Crockett,
Yes.
who is the best coverage corner on the Renegades defense.
Yes.
He was getting locked up all day by him. Had a couple catches. I mean, he had one catch. I feel like I remember him multiple. He had one catch, but he really didn't do much in this game.
So, what I will say about that is I think the Renegades were like, look, if you look at the games prior to this, it's been the Cam Phillips show on the receiving end, a little bit of Nick Hawley, sprinkle of Nick Hawley, but past that, it's been slim pickings, really. So I bet they were like, let's see what happens if we can just completely stop Cam Phillips, dedicate ourselves to that, see what happens with that. And it was kind of something happened that I wanted to see, which was the rest of the receiving unit kind of stepped up. Nick Hawley
did.
Yeah, Nick Hawley obviously had a good game. Blake Jackson had a couple nice catches. Khalil Lewis had a nice game. Sammy Coates had his customary like 1 or 2 catches, whatever. And so everyone else kind of stepped up, and it was just nice. Kind of proved what I thought was like the one flaw with the Roughnecks offense, which is like, well, outside of Cam Phillips and maybe Nick Hawley, they don't really have much. I was wrong. They stepped up when they needed to, and they'll be fine. Should Cam Phillips have like a catastrophic injury and can't play for some reason, they will be just fine. So.
And the Renegades stopped the run, but this team's not built on the run anymore.
Yeah.
So, not a problem. All right, let's talk about... There's never really much to talk because the Roughnecks are always just good.
Yeah.
So there's not much to talk about on their offense. But let's talk about the Renegades' defense.
Yeah.
So despite the numbers not looking crazy here, if you look at the pressure, as I mentioned before, this is the most pressure I've seen on Phillip Walker. That's why he made some bad throws, some incompletions, some throwaways, just because they really contained him, so it made him have to step up more in the pocket, and he doesn't seem as comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Which scares me, because maybe that's the reason he was sort of looked over, is he needs to be a guy who can get outside and have as much time as he needs to make the throw. But I don't think that's the case, but there was some problems with that today where he had to stay inside the pocket and he wasn't as good as he has been. But still great.
Yeah.
For this team, of course, Joshua Crockett did a great job locking up Cam Phillips.
Yep.
Because we were all thinking Cam Phillips was like the clear-cut number one
The
guy. And so
gold.
it's Joshua Crockett, because he shadowed him the whole game.
Yep.
They're like, Joshua Crockett, you're lit. So when they said that, so I remember when they said on the broadcast, like, the game plan, they told us that the game plan is that Joshua Crockett is going to shadow Cam Phillips all game. I was like, is Joshua Crockett that good?
Apparently.
Because I know he's like a solid guy on their team, but I didn't know he was like their best corner or one of the best corners in the league.
So it's also.
I guess he is. He completely locked him up.
Yeah, it's also different. Like if your assignment is to shadow the best receiver, it literally changes everything. Just because it changes the alignment, it changes all that stuff. There's a lot of things that changes, like handing off, shallow zones, all that shit. A lot of complicated shit I don't need to go into, but it's really not that complicated. But just shit I don't need to go into right now. But it changes a lot. So for their defense, so maybe that's something they should pursue in the future. But we'll see.
Right. People who stood out on this defense, Darren Smith. Obviously, we already talked about that great interception he had, but did he also get a sack? No.
See?
I feel like I remember him hitting the quarterback at one point.
You might be
Doesn't
thinking
have it
about
listed here in the stats.
Micah Abernathy, who's the opposite safety, because he had a very timely
right.
sack.
They have very similar
Yeah,
numbers.
well, that might be
have been
who
what it was.
you're thinking of, but I'm not sure. I'm not trying to discredit you or anything.
No, you're probably right.
Okay.
You're probably right. 21 and 31 are pretty close.
Yeah.
That I could have thought that was Darren Smith. But, yeah. So, now I don't have another point about Darren Smith. He's just solid in coverage. I got to see him a lot more in this game.
Yeah.
As I said, I've been trying to make a point of watching him.
Yes.
And what's crazy, this is his first interception of the season coming in week 4.
Yeah.
Dude's an absolute stud.
Yeah, he's crazy. Really like him. I really hope he gets a shot in the NFL somewhere. He is older, so that might not happen, but even just as a depth guy, I think he can be a solid contributor. So,
Trying to think. Let me see what I wrote down.
all right. While you're looking at that, Gerald Rivers is someone I want to spotlight. He didn't really have much in the way of stats, but he consistently got off the ball quick when he was in, and he didn't necessarily collapse the pocket, but would change the shape of it. So that helps a lot. So not a lot on the stat sheet there, but a good game from Gerald Rivers.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our next game. I didn't have another thing written down. I thought I had something else written down. Sometimes when nothing sticks out to me clearly about the defense, I'm just like, they played good.
They're all right, you know.
I mean, I think the thing was the pressure. I think that was the biggest note I could take from that, was how they contained P.J. Walker better than any teams contained P.J. Walker at this point. All right, let's move on to our last game that we're going to talk about. Where are we at in the podcast? What is the hour? Hour and a half. We got this one a little bit shorter, I think.
Well, we didn't do as big of a clownery power ranking.
Yeah,
so.
not as much clownery. And I think we were a little more brief on the show.
Yes.
On some of these notes, which I think is probably for the better, because sometimes we talk and it's like...
Well, I think,
points that we didn't
especially
really
me,
need
because
to
a lot of the times, even this show, I was like, I just said the same thing like 3-4 times. So
I know. I'll do that sometimes too.
Yeah.
But we're just saying it in a different way.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about last game we're going to talk about. That's Defenders Vipers.
Oh God.
Wow.
Oh God. Oh my.
That's all I can say.
Yes.
About that. So we just watched that. So that
Yeah.
just happened. Man, what are the Defenders? Where do they stand at this point? I have them ranked 8th. They were like 2 a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Like, what happened?
They played teams that were good defensively, and that have somehow the Vipers are one of the teams that have figured it out a little bit on offense. So it just timing's everything.
I think one of the problems is just nothing really got working for them in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
When one of your top receivers, in terms of yardage, your top receiver is your running back, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Pumphrey really couldn't get much going. I see it like it looks okay here at 4.9, but like they never had a chance really to run the ball because they were down the whole game.
Yeah.
And then Cardale Jones was not making it happen. 9 for 22. He had a 30 passer rating today. He just looked lost. He looks like he's lost all confidence at this point. Now, hopefully he can get it back. Hopefully he goes home and things get better for him. But in 2 games in a row now, it looks like he has not been able to face adversity.
Yeah.
That was the point I made last week, and then it happened again here. He doesn't like getting down.
Yeah.
And so when he gets down, it's problematic. And we can also see it emotionally from him on the sideline. Now, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people will get more heated about that, but like, I think there is something to be said about DeAndre Tompkins is probably like your 3rd best receiver.
Yeah.
He's had a couple good games, and then the play that he got mad at him for, I couldn't really find the issue in what DeAndre Tompkins did, except maybe he wasn't fast enough to get to the ball.
So
because it was just a streak up the middle, wasn't it?
So he wasn't
The seam route?
he was not supposed to run. So he ran a go route, when he was supposed to run a post. So a post, you know what a post is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So the difference between that, now he probably actually still ran a post. He probably just wasn't as sharp as he usually is or as he's supposed to be. So it just kind of sailed a little bit. But I mean, that's what you got to do. I mean, you have to run the right route. That's just, or you have to run your routes crisp, or that's what's going to happen. So,
I mean, it looked like he had him. It was just a little overthrown.
yeah. Now,
when I just watched that play in real time.
Now, Cardale Jones is not without blame for the entire game because he didn't play well at all either. But what I will say is that you can't have that happening, whether or not really who's more at fault. Even if he didn't run the route like he's supposed to run the route, then that's his fault. But Cardale was short on a lot of throws, and then too long on a lot of throws. He doesn't really have a lot of touch, or at least hasn't really shown that he has a lot of touch. Their O-line was also just getting dicked a lot.
It was.
Yes.
It was bad. I was going to call them abysmal.
Yes,
As I pull out my
abysmal.
word.
Well, hey, maybe that'll turn them around.
They were abysmal on this one.
Cardale's footwork continues to be an issue, not even just kind of his jump throws, but on his dropbacks. He's dropping back too fucking far. A lot of that might be how he's coached, and if that's how it is, and it's not really his fault. But he's dropping back probably 9 or even 10 yards at some points. And he's a big dude. He's a wide dude. He's got long legs, so that just might be his kind of his gait, I guess. But you got to fix that because that makes it so much harder to pass protect when your pocket is just that big. So Cardale needs to play better, point blank. He could probably get a little more help, but he needs to play better. As we talked about earlier, a lot of the times, I think a lot of their plays designed to quick completion. All right, let's go. Now we have 7 yards, or it's 2nd and 6, and we can get plays from here. But if it's 2nd and 10, it was pretty much consistently all night. It's 2nd and 10 now because the 1st and 10 was just nothing. So pretty consistently all night.
I think it would help if their run game was. I don't think Jarrell Presley was inactive in this game.
No, they just a healthy scratch, or they just didn't play.
They just didn't give him any carries.
Dang.
If I remember correctly, he was not inactive for this game, and so that scares me. What does that mean about Jarrell Presley that they're not giving him carries? And that scares me even more because Donnell Pumphrey is not the kind of guy who needs to be getting a bulk of carries.
No, but
the best offense is a balanced offense.
And I do think they can be that because I do think
not a
Nick
huge
Brissett is actually pretty good, or at least he's a different type of running back. Really, it's just nothing was working today really for them. I don't think it's really any one thing. To be fair, I think Cardale being a little more accurate, just on 1st and 2nd down, would help tremendously. But I also can't really put all the blame on his shoulders because. Do we just want to transition to the DC defense now, or
the DC defense?
Yes,
or the Tampa Bay
the
defense?
DC defense, because I was going to talk about how bad they were.
No, let's save that.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Tampa Bay defense real quick.
Okay.
Because I want to hear. So last week, I told you that I think they are one of the best, if not the best secondaries in the XFL.
Okay.
How do you feel about that statement now, a week removed, after telling me I was absolutely idiotic and they were one of the worst?
I don't know. I still don't think they're the best.
Do you think they're good? You told me they were bottom half.
Well, they were because they had epic fuck-ups. They didn't have any epic fuck-ups this game, so that helps. Need to see that consistently. This was definitely a big step in the right direction, but need to see that consistently.
I think they did this week exactly what they did last week without the epic fuck-up.
Well, their defense, the way it is they're going to live and die by their pass rush. So if that doesn't get there, then it's not going to work for them.
But I don't think that's the case. This is the first game where I think the pass rush was a huge factor. Now, they bring the blitz a lot, but most of the time, and I think one of the reasons they got fucked up a lot, is that they don't get a lot of sacks. This team isn't one of the best teams in terms of sacks and QB pressure, statistically. So I think their secondary is super solid, in games. That was one of the points I made last week, was that this is a team that doesn't get a ton of pressure, but the secondary is held up pretty well in the face of it. And this game, where they did get a lot of pressure, that made it even better. But I think their secondary, they have some players who are...
They definitely have some players who are good, for sure. like I said, they just have to string it together. Again, this was against a very underperforming offense, and even though, I mean, maybe they didn't get pressure, but they were bringing 6 basically every play, which there's 5
In this game, they for sure got pressure. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
This game, there was a lot of pressure in Cardale's face.
Yeah. And,
but I don't think that's always been the case.
Well, I think they finally kind of realized as like, yo, we need to send like 5-6 guys.
They send 7 sometimes.
Yeah, I think they're going to be very blitz heavy because I think they've realized we kind of have to do that in order to kind of get any penetration, which is fine. I mean, if that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. And this game, their secondary held up well, and I think part of that is definitely them being good, but I think also part of that is Cardale having his second terrible game in a row. So
yeah. So they played the Roughnecks last week, and they did pretty well again. Right? They played the Roughnecks last week. Is that game?
Yep.
Yeah. So they played the Roughnecks last week, and they held up pretty damn good against a Roughnecks team that's clearly the best offense in the XFL.
I mean, did they really hold up that well though?
They held up pretty well statistically. Wasn't it
34
multiple
points?
Interceptions? Wasn't it multiple interceptions in that game?
But
I feel like I made this point last week
let me see.
when we were having this recap, and I said they got amazing field position on like
No, they didn't get any interceptions.
they didn't have any.
0. And that's the game where they had an epic fuck up. So I don't think they did very good last week. I disagree with that.
That was one play all game.
I think last week against the Roughnecks, I think their defense cost them the game. To be honest,
Now I
with
need
you.
to look at my week 3 notes.
So
Where is that Houston Tampa Bay game? All right. So the problems last week were so they had that one epic fuck up.
tackling,
Okay.
which they still weren't very good at
Then-
this game, but they didn't really have an opportunity to be bad at it because there weren't a lot of completions.
Okay, I didn't write anything here that isn't outside of. Oh, tackling is the big issue for the Vipers defense.
Yeah. Which they still didn't
But I
really
think-
prove that they were better at, but that's not their fault this game. So
I would just say their secondary is just been a solid unit. I think it limits a lot. Now Cam Phillips, if I remember correctly, had a good game.
yeah,
Um,
we're talking about weeks ago now. Let's get back to this week.
You're right. Okay. You're right. All right, I'm getting distracted because I know I'm right. They're one of the best secondaries in the XFL.
I just have to think about it. The thing
Because-
when you say one of the best secondaries in the XFL, or one of the best whatever in the XFL, that just throws me because there's only 8 teams. So
Yeah, I just think like top 3.
it's different
When I say that, I'm thinking top 3.
Yeah,
somewhere.
it's different when it's the NFL because there's 32 teams. So you're like, oh yeah, like clearly this is the top echelon because of all these other scrubs. But I have to think about it when there's less teams because I have to think about it. It's weird.
I would say they're a top 3. I think they're. I might honestly think they're the best. I just think they're super solid in coverage. They don't give up a ton of big plays. You have to think that they went against the Roughnecks. That was probably their worst in terms of how their defense played, but it was still going against the Roughnecks. That's a pretty good job.
But
Especially in
but
that
it
game, they
wasn't a
weren't getting
very
a lot
good
of
job.
pressure.
It wasn't a very good job.
Okay, not their defense, Thomas. Stop thinking about their defense as a whole. Think about their secondary.
It wasn't a very good job.
Okay, so you're telling me when
They couldn't
the
tackle,
quarterback
they had
has
it
like
in-
10 seconds to throw the ball, that the coverage is not going to slack off in some ways?
Sure, but when also
You can't hold coverage for 10 seconds when the guy can get away because your pass rushers can't get to him.
cool, but they still didn't do a very good job against the Roughnecks.
But as a secondary, they did.
No, they didn't.
They did, though.
They straight up they did not.
They, comparatively to every other team that's played them, they've done a better
Okay,
job
but
than
that
any
doesn't
other team.
mean even if they did the best against them, it doesn't mean they did good because they did not do good. They did bad.
But you have to think of it comparatively.
Because no, you don't. You have to think about it how they did, and they did bad.
Because then if you're going to say that, every defense that plays the Roughnecks is a bad defense.
Sure, but no, because
So there's no such thing as a good defense in the
No, that's not what I'm
XFL.
saying at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because the Vipers weren't good before that either, or they had epic fuck games before that either. So there were other teams that were still good. The Battlehawks are still a good defense, even though their secondary didn't have a good day against the Roughnecks either. So
So
it just
the Vipers are still a good defense.
they're
even though they
okay.
didn't have a great-
They need to string it
day.
together consistently, and maybe we'll see. But you can't say they did good last week. They did not. They did very bad.
But comparatively, they did good compared to how other
I don't
teams
care
fared
how
against
they
them.
did comparatively.
Okay, so that logic is not sound.
How is it not
Because then
sound?
you'll think, because you'll say that your logic there is that anytime they have a bad game, that makes them bad. Is essentially what you're
No,
saying.
but if they've had more bad games than they've had good, then yes, that makes them bad.
But their defense doesn't have a ton of bad games, especially in those first 2 weeks. You cannot pin that on their defense.
You can't really pin that. The first two, I also don't, like we talked about this, I don't really care about week one because weird shit happens.
Yeah, but it was just that offense has been so putrid.
Yes.
Now this game it was
I
better,
agree. This game it was better. This game was much better.
but when your offense is that horrible, it's hard when you're on the field all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in shitty field position, you're going to give it. We looked at them statistically season long, and they were in the top 2 or 3 in every category except points allowed per game.
The DC Defenders were also the best defense statistically through week 2. They're terrible.
No, I don't think.
So
I don't think that'll hold up.
I
Well,
don't
through
think
week
it
2,
will.
yeah.
Precisely. So
But now this is week 4.
yes,
And their numbers are only going to go up from here. They're probably going to be number 1.
We'll see.
after this game.
are you counting
If they
for
were
this
already
game?
3,
After this game, they're going to be
And
number
now
1.
they've had this game.
Are you saying after this game they're going to be number 1?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, maybe statistically, but I don't care about stats.
Well, now you've just changed your. that wasn't what you were saying a second ago.
Well, you can't just
All right.
rely on stats.
So you don't think they're a good defense? Where do you rank?
No, I think they're fine. I want to see them consistently be as good as they were today, and then yeah, they'll be one of the better defenses, but they got to be consistent with it.
So you don't think they're a good defense at this current time?
I think they had a good game. They haven't shown that they've been a good defense for more than one game.
I would 100% disagree.
Well,
with that.
you're 100% wrong.
You're 100% wrong. Literally, I don't know what you're watching if you think there's nothing good about this.
I'm not saying there's nothing
Because-
good about them, but they have to come together and not. They can't like you're making me sound like I'm saying they're just awful, horrible, garbage, terrible, awful, garbage, awful, horrible. They're not. But you can't say that they're a great defense. They had a really good day, but you can't say that they're one of the better defense.
Okay. So what matters? What are you looking for? What makes a defense good?
Consistency is step one. That's really I would almost say that's the be all end all. Like you look at a team like the St. Louis Battlehawks, every time we go to talk about their defense, like, they were really good. Same thing with the Renegades. They were really good. They've always been good this whole season. You cannot say that about the Vipers. Can't.
So the Renegades had a great game against the Wildcats, who put up like 300-something passing yards on them and a couple touchdowns, and they gave up 100 rushing yards in the last quarter.
No, they didn't have a good game, but they still had
But
other
you said
games.
they've consistently been good in every game.
I didn't say every game. I just said consistently good. You can have hiccups, but when you have more than
This team had a hiccup.
you're just twisting it to fit what you're saying, and you're not listening to anything I'm saying.
You're doing the same thing.
No, I'm not. I'm not at all. You're just saying that I say things when I didn't even say them.
I don't get the logic how you could say this team has not been good, because
They haven't. This game, they were great.
I don't know what category you look at. What are you looking at? If the numbers say they're good,
Don't have an
they
epic
rank
fuck
in
up.
the top.
Don't have an epic fuck up. Be consistent at tackling. You have to be consistent. That's the thing. If they're this good, or even like 75% as good as they were this week, next week, they're a good defense. But they
So we have to wait one more week. And
yeah,
be ready
you
to
have
follow
to be
this.
consistent. You can't just have one good game and be like, oh, they're sick, dude. You have to be
I was
consistent.
praising them last game.
What?
I was praising them last game.
They had some moments, but they also had some fuck ups. They weren't consistent.
Every team has fuck ups.
Fine, but not as epic as it was the other time.
I just feel like there's now a spotlight on this because I brought it up. But if we went and looked back, we could find fuck ups in these other games.
They're definitely trending upwards in terms of how their defense is. The thing is also bringing 6 and bringing 7 and letting your cover. Now, I just don't know if that's sustainable, and I don't know if that will work. Because you also have taken into account the defenders have been off for the past 2 weeks, offensively.
Yes.
So that's also what's making me question the whole thing. Is that?
Now that's true.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes. I'm not saying they're bad defense.
I'll give you one more week, but if they have another good week, you could no longer stand your ground on.
Well, who do they play next week?
Let's see. I think they play. Let's see. They play the Wildcats.
Okay.
Yeah, they play the Wildcats.
We'll see how that goes. If they're good again,
if they have a good game against the Wildcats.
if they have a decent game against the Wildcats, I'll say they're a good defense. I'm not saying they're bad. They're fine right now. They're just not consistent.
But I get this vibe. You don't even think they're a top 4. You wouldn't put them in the top half.
I don't know. I have to think about it. I probably would put them in the top half because there's a lot of really bad defenses.
Yeah.
I would just have to think about it. It's just hard to think about when there's only 8 teams is all, which is weird. You feel like it'd be easier.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to. Did we even talk about this defense really, other than arguing?
No, we didn't spotlight anybody.
Obum Gwacham had that big blocked kick. Anthony Kelly was good in coverage today.
Mm-hmm.
I think their whole secondary in general locked up everyone. I can't think of. I mean, you just look at their offense. There was no big plays today.
But how much of that was them
open.
and how much of them was the defenders is all.
Yeah. Well, now I can't even say anything good about this defense because you're going to have an anti-point. Say something good about this defense, Thomas.
Okay. Anthony Kelly was really good today. He was really good in coverage. He can kind of do everything, so that's really good. It's hard to really spotlight any one person on their front 7 because they would bring all 7 of them sometimes. What's this guy's first name? Hold on, it's loading. Lucas Wacha was pretty decent in coverage today, but that was also because Cardale, they were kind of giving him the short game because Cardale was missing anyway, so who cares?
Right.
Yeah, it's just hard to spotlight any really one person on the front 7 because they would bring everybody all the time, which is not their fault. That's just what they would do.
And it's not like they got a ridiculous amount of sacks or anything. It was just the pressure was there the whole game.
And I know this is
constantly.
Yes.
As I said a second ago. Oh, what are you going to say?
I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Keep going.
Okay. I was going to say that I mentioned this earlier, how Cardale is that type of quarterback, unlike Luis Perez, that is not your traditional improviser, even though it may look like that because he can get outside the pocket and break a sack or something. He still has to set his feet and then decide where he's throwing. It's not like he can just kind of, while running, loft it accurately.
Yes. That one pass today where he was so excited and he like jumped past it, and it was like inches away from being perfect, but it was still overthrown. It was like, oh, that hurts. And it cut back to Cardale, and it was like, oh, he's sad. So,
trying to think. I think the pressure helped a lot, but I think the coverage they have some of the best wide receivers in the league.
Oh yeah,
and guys weren't getting open, and they were just not catching balls. So
yeah.
The defense, I think the coverage held up really well today. But all right, let's move on to the Vipers' offense, which for the first time all season looks like it works.
Yes.
And do you know why that is?
Why?
Because the point I made last week, where this team needs to become a running team that relies on their defense and runs the ball. And I think that's what they did here today.
Well, to be fair,
they had 49 carries, 49 attempts.
That's a whole lot.
That's what they need to be doing.
To be fair, they did do a little bit of that last week as well, and really, not necessarily the whole season, but they've kind of been a run-first team basically this whole time. Now, they are more committed to it right now, of course, but I think the biggest deal was that Taylor Cornelius looked very, very good today. He was very comfortable. He had one pick, but it was more of like just a deep pass, whatever. So it is what it is. Still shouldn't have thrown it because clearly he was playing the underneath. As he says, like, they ran a bubble out of that every time. Every bubble.
Yep.
Yeah, but still, he had a very good day. His best day by far. So I think even though what helps them a lot is their running backs are yards after contact fucking monsters. 200-yard rushers, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah. And considering, I think, last week and the week previous, Devion Smith didn't even have 15 carries.
Yeah. So.
And they've now decided, let's give this entire running back core 40-something carries.
Now, a lot of that, too, is because they were ahead late and they're just trying to run the clock out. Is the volume of carries. But they both still had very good days, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think they just need to lean on the run more and continue to do what they're doing. You know what it opens up? You know what there was a lot of in this game?
What?
My favorite thing in the XFL and in football in general? Play action.
Play action.
And there was plenty of play. And I think that's probably a big reason why Taylor Cornelius did so well today.
Probably.
is play action just makes your life so much easier
Yes,
as a
it does.
quarterback. Because all the defenders and all the linebackers and all the defensive linemen for at least a second go, they're running the ball. Okay, no, not.
Oh,
at
shit.
least there's a little bit of hesitation, and that gives you enough time to make a move.
Yes.
Especially when, not a problem in this game, but in a game where you're going against a good pass rush,
Mm-hmm.
where you have to make them hesitate, that's what you want to do. So I think that's why their offense worked today, is they established the run so well.
Yes, I would like to highlight my boy DeAndre Goolsby. Had a much-needed bounce-back game after a very bad outing last week. Also, he didn't give the interview, but Taylor Cornelius gave the interview, and they're like, "What happened on the touchdown pass to DeAndre Goolsby?" And Taylor Cornelius basically said, "I threw the ball and he caught it," and then walked away. So that was hilarious. The play of the game for me, even though it wasn't really like a game-changing play, was when they had Taylor Cornelius wrapped up and he broke a sack by a defensive tackle and then ran for a first down. And then it immediately cuts to the defensive tackle being yelled at by one of his teammates, who yelled, "You had him, man. What the fuck?" So that was awesome to see. Taylor Cornelius putting his head down and running into the end zone for a touchdown was also pretty awesome. But also don't do that, because you were immediately hurt as soon as you got up and you're like, fuck. But yeah, Taylor Cornelius, much better day today. Really happy for him, because he's kind of been just getting his ass kicked back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I got to say about this
Okay.
offense.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much else to say. I think them establishing their run, for me, was the key to them winning this game. Obviously, the defenders. Let's talk about the defense.
All right, they were bad.
Big bad. They have zero effort in the last two games.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to tackle anybody. They don't want to get after the quarterback. They don't want to do shit.
Yeah.
They just want to get through the game and hope their offense scores.
Yeah.
And that's not how you win games.
The play where Dan Williams caught a ball and then was immediately surrounded by two people who both were just like, he's got him. And then Dan Williams reversed his field and ran for about 40 yards. That's awful. That's about as bad as it can get. You got to be able to break down and make the tackle, especially when there are two of you in perfect position to break down and make the tackle. I don't even know who was there, to be honest with you. I don't care. That was just very, very, very bad. And they were bad all night. Their front seven was getting pushed around. They were just getting beat up. Secondary, not much better. A lot of guys just kind of open on crossing routes and everything like that. Really bad day for the defenders on both sides of the football. So I would say zero bright spots on the DC defenders' defense and offense.
There's really not. The thing you pointed out of the safety leading your team in tackles is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Applies here.
Yes.
So, rough day for them. There's really not much to say, except they just didn't try to tackle shit. They didn't have any kind of energy this game. That's really the points.
They got the away team itis, I guess. So
I'm curious to see if they go home and then they look like they did in week 1 and 2. I'm gonna be like, hold up,
hold up now. What's going down?
because that is a complete distinction between what happens when you're at home and when you're away. Because they looked like the best team in the XFL at home, and they've looked like the worst team in the XFL away.
To quote the great Hulk Hogan, they did a complete 360, brother. And yes, I'm aware that a 360 means you end up at the same spot, but that is the quote.
Okay. Well, anything else you want to say about this defense?
Bad.
I mean,
And I kind of felt like, even though watching week 1 and 2, I was like, they're playing okay, but nothing's really sticking out to me. So I hope this isn't a thing where they're just playing cream puff teams. And lo and behold, it's kind of looking like that's what it was. Hopefully they can kind of bounce back next week, although I don't think they will, because they're playing St. Louis. So, but we'll see what happens.
They're not going to win against St. Louis.
Well,
that's a bad matchup.
we'll see, because I've been so sure about other things before. So I mean, we'll just see. We'll see. A lot can change in a week.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about our season totals.
All right.
And what we're looking like right now. So this week, we both didn't have great weeks. You had a slightly worse week than me.
I had a
but
terrible
we both
week.
Did not have great weeks.
Yes.
So this week, we both went 2-2 in straight up picks. Obviously, we got the Guardians one wrong, and we got the Vipers Defenders wrong. So we went 2-2 on that. You went 1-3 against the spread, whereas I went 2-2 against the spread. So
Yes.
I think that was on the Battlehawks game, if I remember correctly. It was the difference for us. and then we both went 2-2 on the over-unders. So, now for the season. You're still beating me in one category, and I'm beating you in another. And you're beating me in the more important category.
I was going to say, what really matters is the straight-up category. So,
in the straight-up category, I am 10-6. Against the spread, I am 9-7 on the season. And then on the over-unders, I am 8-4. Thomas is straight up 11-5. Against the spread, 9-7. And on the over-unders, he is 7-5. This man cannot predict scores.
Nope, can't do it. I fully admit I am terrible at it. I'm awful.
I feel like I'm pretty damn good at predicting scores. Mine are always kind of close.
Yeah.
Unless the game is like a complete opposite of what I thought would happen.
I just
like if the game goes how I think it's going to go, and the score kind of lands where I think it will. But
numbers in my brain just don't mix together. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great show today.
Yeah.
Lots of arguing in this one.
Yeah.
Specifically about the Vipers defense. I'm sure we'll have the argument against next week when they'll actually play great, and then Thomas will be like, but you see, he missed one tackle.
No, I mean, whatever. I don't want to get into it again. The show's already... Are we at 2 hours yet? We are just now hitting 2 hours.
All right, guys. If you enjoy what you've listened to here,
yes.
If you like listening to us argue, if you like getting into fights with Thomas on Twitter, go support us on
Twitter. I
Twitter.
didn't fight anybody today. It was we agreed to disagree, and it was cordial and nice. Mm-hmm. We both shared our opinions. It was polite. It was a gentleman's discord. Or gentlewoman.
I really wanted to when I first saw that because I don't even think we talked about whatever that was about.
It was about Quinn Flowers leaving.
It's not really a thing that was made sense with this show.
Mm-hmm. We can talk about it now.
But no, it's fine.
Okay,
just move on from it. But I disagreed with what Thomas said, and I almost felt like putting a thing like that was Thomas, but I didn't.
Whatever.
But anyway, so if you guys want to see all that foolishness that goes on our Twitter, you can go follow us at XFL Extra Point on Twitter, and make sure you guys be interactive with however you listen to the show. That means rate it, comment on it, like it, whatever you can do on it.
Whatever the
Apps are
fuck you
different,
want to do.
For the most part, you can at least say something either nice or kind and tell me how stupid I am. Tell Thomas how stupid he is. We'd like to hear it, and then we can also use it against each other. All right.
Sure.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you to
see
Fat
you
Bobby K
next
and
week.
Nate H to the Izzo and Joe Geiger Jr. for questions. Sorry, I didn't.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
This is